It's the good people with Erik and Hannah. And it is 4:30, 2022. We're at the end of April. Can you believe it?
I know. But also, I feel like we haven't done this in such a long time, but Erik got sick. So
I got sick and
finally he's on the receiving end of the sick side. It's not me this time.
and the funny thing about it is it's definitely a thing with the camera where like I'm not in the window. So
are you frozen again?
yeah, I know it is.
Yeah.
I know it's doing it. It's when I switch windows.
Okay.
And I don't know why it's doing that, but it's okay. So we just leave. See, I already fixed it. I already know what's going on with it. I don't know why it does that. So,
well, thank God you're the tech person.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, it's one of these things. Like, you know, like when you're like people are like, "Oh, you're the tech guy. You know exactly what the problem is and what the answer." Contrary to popular belief, I don't know what every single thing like the solution is. Sometimes I don't know. Like,
you kind of just know like this one thing fixes it.
This one thing, like
you're like this.
Well, sometimes I'm kind of like,
it doesn't fix the full problem. Like it just fixes it temporarily.
Right. It's like a Band-Aid. Like I know what a Band-Aid like will work. Oh, it's a boo-boo. A Band-Aid will fix it. But before we get full on started here, I have a surprise for you, Hannah.
Really?
I did not talk about this.
Oh, you're having a baby? No.
God, no. We were talking about you though the other day because we went shopping because Pal has a baby shower to go to.
Aww.
So like we were like looking for little baby clothes, and I'm telling you, dude, within a year, Hannah and Dustin are gonna crank one out.
Listen, one of my coworkers came up to me. She's like, "Listen, I'm gonna prophesize over it. You're gonna be pregnant before the year's over." And I'm like, y'all don't have faith in me. Like I want to enjoy my husband.
I'll take that bet.
I don't think so. I really don't think I'll get pregnant for another like few years.
See, it's not that we don't have faith in you.
I know.
We don't have faith in your hormones. You know, like your body's going to do what it wants to do. And eventually it's just going to be like, boom, baby. Anyway, Here's a little surprise. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
So I'm holding this blue cup right here, right?
Yes.
But if we turn it.
That's so cool.
Oh, I'm trying to get it in both cameras. But like we'll put it in the main camera here.
Oh my God. I love that.
So this was a gift from Pal. And she's in the chat right now. This is a gift from Pal. We only bought the one because we wanted to see, like, you know, she bought the one as a surprise, and she wanted to see what the results were going to be. Like, you know, is it going to be good? Is it going to be, you know?
Oh my gosh.
So I will relay some details here while we talk before we get started. Okay, so it was an Etsy store, I believe. The Instagram account is Crafts, KRAFTS. By Keel, KEELE. And it should be like a little like black and white, like 3-line insignia logo there. If you're looking at the
Instagram. On Etsy.
Okay. Let's see. Well, I got it on Instagram. Pal sent me the Instagram account.
Oh, it's Instagram. Okay.
So let me do that here. Let me go to Instagram. And I will put.
Pal, I love that. Thank you. I don't know if she's on.
Did
she at work today?
Yeah, but she's probably still there.
Supportive girlfriend.
So from what Pal tells me, they were very, very attentive to the order, and customer support was great and all that good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this in the chat right here. And
sorry if you heard my clicky clacky typing.
It's okay. Clicky clacky's okay. So here we go. We all got those bomb ass keyboards.
Yeah, I was having a conversation. Someone told me that they don't like the clicky clacky. Some people don't. They like super silent keyboards. I don't like that.
Some people are just inferior. No, Pal's really. I bought Pal one for her birthday. Like
really?
Like I bought her one of the mechanical ones, and she loves the clicky clack.
It tickles my brain. That's the only reason.
It's like what is it? Serotonin.
It is like I get a boost of serotonin. I was listening to it on my phone the other day because my
there's a channel like just click clacks.
Yeah, on TikTok, it's like this girl that like does like keycaps or whatever, and like companies send her like keycaps, and so I was talking to my best friend Rosa about keyboards, and so I pulled up the channel, and you just hear click clack, and we were like listening to it. My other coworker was like, "What on earth are you listening to? And I'm
I
like,
finally
he's
did that whole
literally
thing where I changed keycaps. Like I bought new keycaps for my keyboard because I bought a brand new Coursera
Yeah.
because my last one started doing stupid stuff with the lighting. I think we had this discussion, but
Yeah.
it was a totally dumb reason to replace a whole keyboard because the RGB wasn't working. But I use it for certain reasons.
Ah.
So like I was like, oh crap. Well, I was like, okay, it's time. It was 4 years old. I'm like, I'll go buy a new one. So I bought a new one, but I finally went and I bought the keycaps because I was at a micro center. Like I'm fortunate to have a micro center in California. It just takes me
you are incredibly blessed.
it just takes me a while to get there. It's like an hour to get there. But I was like there. I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna buy keycaps. I'm here. I can see them in person and da 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 da. So I bought the keycaps and I have white pudding ones, so the RGB shines underneath the keys really bright, and it's beautiful.
Cute. Love that.
So
See, I just stick with like just having a keyboard. I'm like,
now that I'm testing the water bottle here, we'll get one ordered for you because it's not like we were like Pal was doing it to surprise me. I was like, I can't neglect Hannah like this. This thing's adorable. So we're gonna get one for you. So it'll be the show cup. You'll have one for the show when we do the thing.
Hey,
you have a show cup.
I gotta retire my little Starbucks.
Yeah, you'll have a show cup.
Aesthetic cup.
But yeah, it's totally cute, and it's not painted. He engraves into the actual cups.
I was gonna say, like, it doesn't look like it's printed, like when you were showing it to me. Like,
yeah, no, he engraves it into the actual cup. It's great. I just totally realized, like, people that aren't watching us on Twitch or YouTube or whatever, maybe or just listening to us in audio. It's a shaker cup. It's a dark blue shaker cup, and it has the Good People with Erik and Hannah logo, and it has our little characters on the
our little avatars
on the bottle. It's beautiful. It's great. Thank you, Crafts by Keel. It's fantastic. We'll put your link in the episode description when we go upload. Awesome job. We're gonna have a little bit of a longer intro today because girls, stuff is wild right now.
Stuff is going on, and we haven't been live for a little bit.
We haven't been live for a little bit, but stuff is wild.
But we're gonna talk about like the current events right now.
What about this Amber Heard deal?
My gosh. See, I haven't been able to, like, I haven't sat and watched like the whole thing, but I'm like getting the clips that are coming in, like the more viral clips that are kind of coming out. And I'm just like, this whole thing, like, and I'm going to state this. I don't know anything about being a lawyer at all. So like, I'm in that place of like, do I have the right to criticize Amber Heard's lawyers? But this does look like a circus. Like, it just, from everything that I'm seeing right now, I'm like, you saw the Muffin Man thing, right? About the muffins.
I saw the muffin thing.
The hearsay thing.
And I'm just like,
when he objects himself, and I'm like,
yeah, that one made me laugh. Like the dude objected his own counsel, like his own counsel team. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then like they're laughing. Like Johhny can't stop laughing at them.
I know. I would be embarrassed. I would be so mortified.
So here's on a serious note about this whole thing. So I've been trying to follow it as much as I can. I watch it while I'm at work and I'm listening to it and I'm trying to get as much of it as I can in and out, right? So from what I can gather, this is not a domestic violence case by definition. Like, this is not what the discussion is. This is not what this court case is about. Domestic violence is wrong on both sides. Both sides of the picture. It's not right when a woman abuses a man, and it's not right when a man abuses a woman. Neither one is right. Making that clear.
Justified,
right?
Not
justifiable in any way, shape, or form. I'm making that clear now. But this case is about defamation. She's making claims that he abused her. And in turn, that cost him his income, his financial security. He lost his major paying roles, like his long-term roles like Pirates of the Caribbean and whatever else may have been in that picture, his Disney contract, whatever. He's lost those roles as a result of this accusation from her. So now he's trying to basically clear his name.
Right. And I honestly, didn't even realize how long this was going on.
It's like, what, 4 years?
I think it was like 2000. When did that?
15. I think it's 2015 is the discussion of the time frame on the case, I believe.
Right. And I'm like, has this been going on this long?
Like 14 to 17, I think is what the thing. It's been about 3 to 4 years that the actual time frame of events is supposedly to have occurred. So,
right.
Saying that, just from what I'm gathering from this whole thing, I don't want to completely rule out the accusation from her because it may have happened. It may have. But what I'm saying is a lot of this stuff is interpretation. So like a lot of this stuff is interpretation. This is how she interprets the events that happen. Unless he physically laid hands on her, the rest of it is all kind of interpretation. And I'll give an example of this. If I call my girlfriend a ding dong, is that verbal abuse? No. I don't believe it is.
But if she interprets it,
she's like,
so the point you're making is if she interprets it,
like, yeah, like, hey, that's, you put me on blast, or like, I feel attacked because you called me a ding dong. Like, yeah, she has that right to say that, but is it on a realistic, reasonable doubt, is this considered verbal abuse? You call Dustin an idiot because he bought the wrong meat, like at the grocery store, and you do it once or twice a year in a blue moon. You know what I mean? Like, is that verbal abuse to your husband? Or is that psychological abuse on your husband? Probably not. You see what I'm getting at here?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. But I understand what you're saying.
From what I can gather, at least in my opinion to this thing, the Amber Heard's approach to this whole thing is they're saying this was the whole first few days where they were going about his drug use and his drug, his alcohol abuse, et cetera. They're trying to paint it as like, oh, this guy abuses drugs, this abuses alcohol, et cetera, et cetera. He must have, physically assaulted and abused his wife.
They're painting him as like the substance abuse guy that just
a Jekyll and Hyde. They're playing they're playing the Jekyll and Hyde card where he's like, oh, he's real sweet, but as soon as he gets substances in him, which is amazing to me because just listening to how he talks about his drug use, because number one, he's open. He's like,
he's very open. He's very vulnerable about it. He's
like, hey,
paints a very clear picture.
Yeah, he's like, oh, were you there? That's one of my favorite lines. Like, you were drinking heavily, sir. He's like, oh, were you there?
Or the mega pint one. He's like, I had a very large glass of wine.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say this here. I'm gonna say this. This is my opinion on this. Just someone who abuses drugs or alcohol, etc., does not necessarily make them someone who's abusive to their spouse. It increases the risk of that. Yes. Like the risk is drastically increased when someone does that. But does it mean it's going to happen? Like, is Johhny going to get drunk or high or whatever and then hit Amber? That's not necessary unless it happened and they can prove it happened. That's not necessarily a fact.
Right.
It's an opinion. Oh, drugs do this, that, this, and this,
Yeah.
And what I'm gathering from him,
he's grabbing right now.
Yeah, he's a highly functional, substance abuser. Is he an addict? Yes. I would say he's probably an addict. He's addicted to some drugs and stuff. But does it affect his ability to function in society? Because from all the other testimonies we're getting from his business managers, which they just had, his, his account dealings and all that stuff, every meeting he's been with, he's attentive, he's focused, he understands the concept of what's going on. So he's not showing up to this stuff, under the influence.
Right. Which is what they were trying to get him at some points. Yeah. Like, they'd be like, you were blacked out. And he'd be like, no, I was not blacked out.
Right.
Like, it's interesting to me. I was telling, I forget who I was telling. I think it was Dustin. I said, watching kind of like bits of this trial and everything, like, if I ever had to be like a witness or something, like the tactics they use, I'm like, I would crumble. Like, it just like out of sheer panic, out of like nerves, like the one witness testimony, the one that I was impressed with the most was Dr. Shannon Curry, who's the forensic psychologist.
Is she the blonde that everyone got the hots for?
Yeah, she's gorgeous, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like,
well, they tried they tried to paint that card. Like, they tried to paint that he was.
They tried to put what was it that someone wrote? They tried to use psychological tricks on the psychologist. And and it's like she didn't fall for it for a second. What I loved about her was when she didn't understand something, she was like, I don't understand what you're saying. Can you? And the lawyer would be like, you don't understand what that means? Like, as if to like belittle her. And she's like, no, I don't. You explain it to me. Like,
and my favorite part about her was she's like, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a psychologist. So please explain to me what you're trying to say. Which, again, it's one of those things where it's like, well, you're a psychologist. You should understand my language. You're educated. I'm not a lawyer. You know, like
It's like I don't understand the legal jargon for everything. Like
right. And when you read legal documents, which I've seen because of the nature of my work, I've seen the wordage in some of these documents. It's convoluted as hell. You're like, what the hell does this even mean? You know,
I
but like,
know.
well, the other thing about it too is they even tried to paint the psychologist like Johhny was trying to have an affair with the psychologist. You know,
Like you went for dinner and drinks, and she was
she's
like,
like,
I went with an interview with Johnny's legal team.
right,
Dinner and drinks were served. But it was so interesting to me, like how they twisted it. Like, because,
right.
you know,
They're
they're
trying to
trying to
like,
paint they're trying to paint her as like an unreliable psychologist. Like she's in cahoots with the team, like, you know.
right. Which is
Um,
bothering me is I think the judge is kind of biased. Just by the
do
way she's,
you?
oh yeah, just by the overrules and the sustaining and all that kind of stuff, she's like, I'll allow
Mhm.
it. No, 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 no. Like, I'm like, this is dumb.
See,
But
I can imagine how difficult of a job that is because I know personally, like myself, just watching everything, like I'm like, I'd be like, I don't want to hear and I don't even know how a jury handles. Like, how do you find a proper like jury with things like social media being a thing? Like, I feel like everybody has an opinion on the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case, you know.
you have very strict orders to not like go and look and research it and all that kind of stuff. It's difficult
But can
nowadays.
you?
Oh,
Well,
that's
I
what
was gonna say, like, do they have their phones on them? Like, are they? Is there technically a way where like they are removed from all that stuff?
I don't know. It's hard because I almost got picked for jury duty. Like I was in the case, like
Oh
in the,
yeah, I remember.
I got
That's just
out.
recently,
I got
right?
out of it, but I won't explain
Yeah.
how I got out of it for, legal reasons. But um it's just like they look for very specific things.
Mhm.
Like depending on the case too, they look for people that are easily influenceable and like malleable. They'll tell you, "Hey, are you biased?" Da 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 da. But again, just the way they ask the questions, it puts you under pressure as a juror. Like, oh, like, like I
Mhm.
don't know. I have my own specific opinions about jury duty. You know, I find it very, very difficult for someone to be unbiased about something, especially when the incident can relate. They can relate to an incident in some way, shape, or form. It's very, very difficult to
Yeah.
have like not have a bias. But
Well, I'll hear they'll even ask questions like, "What do your parents do?" So, like, if your
mhm.
parents are like, let's say your parents are police officers, right? Like, and you're like, "Oh, my dad's a cop." Like, then they'll be like, and if it's a trial against a police officer, then they're probably not going to pick you
So
for jury duty because there's a bias there.
in my instance,
Yeah.
without divulging too many details, it was
Mhm.
basically a case against a major automobile manufacturer,
Mhm.
and it was a regular citizens case against an automobile manufacturer, a major one. We're talking, one of the big
Mhm.
three. Anyway, they passed out questionnaires to us as the jurors, and one of the questions asked was, "What is your knowledge of vehicles?" Like, what
Mhm.
is your knowledge of vehicles? Judging by the answer I gave and the lawyer's reaction to the answer I gave, I knew too much. They're like, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your scale about automobile knowledge in terms of repairs? And I said about a 7. Well, and then they go, well, what have you done? Oh, I've done oil
Mhm.
changes. I've done brakes. I've done, axles. I've done, tires. I rattled off a bunch
Mhm.
of stuff I've worked on my vehicles.
Yeah.
So already there, I think they felt I knew too much because it had to deal with
Mm.
warranty and
Oh, okay.
service. So
Okay.
over
I
there,
would have been like, I don't know anything. They would have been like, great, you're on.
well, yeah, that's the thing. They're like on a scale, like you let's say you're a 2, and they're like, well, what do you know? Oh, like, oh, I know to check my oil, and I know to check my wiper
Yeah.
fluid, and they'll be like, okay, this is a case about so and so. So your knowledge of vehicles and how repairs work probably
Mhm.
benefits them in some way, shape, or form because like you don't know anything about it. So it's I don't want to say manipulative because that's not the correct word, but it's
Mhm.
malleable and like they can, shape the argument in a way, shape, or form where you can be like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me, you know. And
Right.
then the other question they ask is like, well, do you have any relatives or family or friends that work in automobiles? I have a
Mhm.
cousin that works. I don't know if they still do, but I have a cousin that worked for Tesla as a
Oh,
mechanic.
okay.
So like
Mhm.
I already kind of have an idea and I've talked to him numerous times about it, like how they work and
Mhm.
things like that. So I know how auto mechanics work in terms of pay and time and how things are priced, et cetera, et cetera. So already I know too much.
Right. So they were like, nah,
Yeah, already I
you're
know
free to
too
go.
much. Yeah, already I know too
Yeah.
much. Common sense will tell me, oh, they did this and they did
Mhm.
that, and that's what led to this. But that's the thing. But this whole Amber thing is wild. She shit on the bed.
I know. Also too, I apologize ahead of time. It's the Aaron C show, so there are very large loud planes flying over the apartment.
There's loud planes and fighter jets and gunfire.
Yeah, they're just like, because I was looking at the audio and I saw it go. I was trying to see like if the mic wouldn't catch it. Like, God bless America. Like, but it came on. So I'm sorry ahead of time for anyone listening.
America.
Hell
but with
yeah,
Disney.
The poop thing was like, listen, no matter how pissed off or angry I am at somebody, my husband, whatever, it is not a thought process in my mind to be like, I am going to go pop a squat over your bed and take a massive dump. Like, it's not.
Well, here's what's weird about it, because me and Pao talked about the poop thing, because that's the thing we couldn't. Number one, she did it as a practical joke. Right? We're like, I'm sorry, no matter, I've done some pretty, like, I've gone to some levels for the sake of a joke, right? But I have never once in my life thought to go and shit the bed of my partner, not only the bed I sleep in. I've never thought to shit on a bed that I both share with myself and my partner to sleep in, that I would be like, oh, I'm going to shit on this bed. Ha, ha, ha. Like, I've never once thought crossed my mind, Yeah. Shit in a bag and put it on their porch. Maybe I'll go that route depending on how much I hate the person, right? But I've never thought to shit on a bed.
I've purchased, like, you can go on Amazon and buy, like, fake poop. Like, and I had a friend that had, like, a bunch of cats. And so, like, I bought, like, this big old bag of fake poop. It looks real. You can go that route. Like, you don't need to actually poop the bed.
Right. Like, these are artists, Hannah.
Come on.
It's real for them. This is like, they go to the extremes of their art, but
I know.
The whole thing is wild. I mean, I don't think anybody wins in this thing. Like, it's just so bad on so many fronts, and
it is. I mean, I'll just based off everything I've seen so far. Now, Amber takes a stand, I think, this coming week.
That's the one I'm waiting. I want to hear.
I'm curious to hear what she says, but like, I don't know, just hearing like those audio recordings, like the whole poop in bed thing.
The officers, like, they interviewed the officers, like, did she have damage? Like, was there signs of physical force on her face and all that kind of stuff? They're like, no.
They're like, no, and she just went to Coachella. Like, everything was like, hearing everything so far. Like, I really feel awful for Johhny Depp, because there's not, like, to go through this and try to clear your name, but the damage has already been done.
Right.
Like, he lost Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, he lost Fantastic Beasts.
Oh, I didn't even know he was up for that.
Yeah, he was in Fantastic Beasts. He played Grindel. I don't know. I haven't seen the other movies, but they replaced him with Mads Mikkelsen. And I do love Mads Mikkelsen. I think Mads Mikkelsen is great. But like, I feel for Johhny Depp in the sense of like, watching this all happen, and like, when you're dealing with like lawsuits and stuff like that, you can't really you can't talk about it. So he's had to kind of keep his mouth shut the whole time while the world is looking at him like he's like he's abusing Amber. But now we're seeing from the recordings and the poop on the bed and the all the testimonies from like all the other witnesses, like he just had to kind of sit there and take it.
As
and
sad as it sounds,
I feel that.
As sad as it sounds, and like, I haven't heard her testimony yet, so
yeah.
But I'm just going by with what I've seen now and so far. I honestly feel like she just gambled with the whole, like, he said some stuff and it hurt my feelings. Yeah. She determined it as abuse, and she's like, but I'm a woman. If I take this to court, I'll win. Like. I feel like that's what her argument is. I'm a woman. They'll believe me.
Well, the thing is, she had even said in like those recordings, she's like, go ahead, Johhny, tell the world that, I abused you.
I was abused.
And like, see who believes you. And it's like baiting someone who's clearly been abused, clearly has been gaslit.
Yeah.
And he ends his time on the stand saying like, yes, I was a victim of domestic abuse.
Right.
And so it's like, but now we're seeing, I think in the court of this case is the defamation lawsuit, which I think it was yesterday or whenever, maybe the day before, where was it the ACLU basically came out with those emails. What was it them?
I also heard somewhere in this whole court thing, like she promised like to donate to a charity and didn't pay a dime.
Yeah. She didn't pay. I think like something had been donated on her. Like you would have to look it up, but I know that I think they released the emails stating, and she stated in the emails with her lawyers that it was about Johhny Depp.
Yeah.
So that's a check mark for Johhny's team, because here's literal proof that she wrote this article, and she was like, well, it doesn't name Johhny Depp, so it's not about him. But in the emails that she's sending around, she's making it clear it was about Johhny Depp. So I think that piece of evidence alone will win him this.
Yeah, and I
Like,
hope, I hope he just gets what he deserves, and honestly, it's his life, like his livelihood back.
yeah.
He should be able to go and work and do his job and, entertain and all that kind of stuff that he does. Just, it's not fair that because she said this happened and did this, that, this, and this, that he lost everything. Because again, there was, where's the proof? And we're sitting here looking for the proof.
The thing that's incredibly heartbreaking, though, is that this case, like with what Amber Heard has done, it just like fuels that stereotype to like not believe all women.
Right.
When women's voices are already drowned out in cases of sexual assault or domestic violence. And here we have a case, which is very rare, but she has done it. She's in the public eye, and she has made these false accusations, and he's actually the one being abused. It paints a horrible picture for future victims, both male and female.
Right.
Like, and so it's frustrating. It's heartbreaking. I hope that like we all know like the whole truth by the end of it, and justice is served. But
like I've like I said, we always talk about how like you always claim me as like a logical person. And like when I hear stories like this, it's not that I don't want to believe you.
Right.
It's like, okay, what are the reasons? What are the reasons you're going to give me that I can believe you? Like, okay, show me why this happened. And that's the thing where it's like, I've always been like, I will believe you, but you have to give me some kind of really reason to believe. You just can't say this person did this. And I'll be like,
hearsay.
Yeah, hearsay, but like, you can't just give me this reason. And like, I look at this kind of stuff, and like, when I hear people's sides of stories, the people that it's truly like, I feel like if it truly did happen to them, the moments like this and stuff like that are very vivid in people's memories. It very rarely goes away. They live with it forever. They have dates, they have times, they have what they were wearing, they have this, that, this, and this. Like, they have the details about the incident that happened to them because they keep having to relive it in their head.
Right.
So that kind of stuff I look at and I go, okay, this sounds like it really happened. She, this person has her ducks in a row. Whereas the other person's like, oh, we were here and we had a couple drinks, and da-da-da-da-da. And, by this, sometime in the evening, I woke up. Whereas the other person's like, I woke up and it was like about 4:00 in the morning and I have no idea where I was and stuff like that. Stuff tells me, okay, this stuff sounds like it happened, like at least it gives me some kind of reason. And like, people look at me sometimes and they're kind of like, well, how dare you not believe them? It's like, it's not that I don't believe them. It's just like, I need reasons to justify the belief, you know?
You need like the logic, or you need like the proof behind it.
Yeah. And like I said, it's very, very hard to come out with those details because like of things like I just said, like I need some proof. Like this happens so much where people lie and manipulate and interpret things in their own way, where it's just like, I can't believe it without some stuff to back it up. Like as hard as that's and as cruel as that sounds, like it's just that's the world I think things are now.
Yeah.
Especially in a sue happy world like we're in now, where it's just like, I'm gonna sue you.
Yeah. No, it's. What was it? Somebody told me like Americans are just known for like wanting to sue each other all the time. Like,
they're not wrong.
Is that true? Like,
they're not wrong. And I'm like, well, that's the thing. So on the other front, I've been playing some Elden Ring. I finally tried to dive into this thing.
Ooh, how was it? Worth it?
I'm keeping cool. I haven't thrown any controllers against the wall or anything. I'm keeping cool. I'm maintaining. It's hard. It's hard, but for some strange odd reason, this game versus all the other Dark Souls ones, I'm ingrained in this one, and I don't know why.
Huh?
I don't know why. I think it's maybe the open world thing and like the mystery of the open world and figuring out where I have to go, because there's very little hand holding, if any.
Okay. Would you say that it's like, is it too difficult to where it gets frustrating, or is it difficult enough where you feel like it's accomplishable?
It depends on the type of person you are. If you
Okay.
are the type of person that kind of likes to be told, hey, this is what we need to do, this is the direction you have to go, then okay, like this game might not be for you.
Right.
You know, but if you are one of those ones that like to just dive in game, if you're one of those ones that gets into games and then the first thing you do is start exploring around you and seeing all the stuff, then this game's probably for you. In terms of like combat difficulty and stuff, it's hard. This is a game that's difficult, but it's almost like, and this is all the other Souls games I've learned on top of it, is this game rewards you for putting in the effort. This game rewards you for constantly dying, because every time you die, you're learning a pattern. You're learning this. You're learning what to do next. You're learning like, okay, this, I'm going to do this next and see what happens. It rewards you to keep trying.
That's good. That's encouraging.
It's that satisfaction where you're like, holy shit, I finally did it. You know,
it's like life.
And then you get to go move on to the next boss that's 3 times more difficult, and the process repeats. So it's one of those things that, like, you get a mental reward for actually accomplishing it, but you have to stick to it. Like, you have to keep trying.
Right.
And that's the uniqueness of those games. We have not finished Horizon Forbidden West yet. It's getting to that point where, like, I'm near the tail end of it, and I'm trying to do all the side stuff to get the platinum trophy. I'm like, there's just too much stuff to do. Like, I'm getting burnt on it. There's just too many things.
Are you still don't enjoy it as much as the first one?
No, the first one I think was such an awesome game. It's so well done, and like it was fresh and it was new, and I'm like,
okay,
this is the second one. It took the first game and then it threw too much topping on top of it. Like it threw too many toppings on top of the pizza. You know?
Okay.
It's like they make the perfect, it's like Pizza Hut makes the perfect pizza and you're like, this tastes amazing, and then they try to improve on it by putting more on it, and you're kind of like,
oh yeah, or it's like, we got
and
the
then your pizza
crust,
just like your pizza
that.
just flops from the weight of toppings. That's what I feel about that game now. It's just like,
okay,
it just flops.
Sometimes video games just have too much. Like there have been times I start a game and I'm like, this actually has too much in it and I'm too overwhelmed.
Right.
I think it's actually one of the reasons why I never finished Skyrim. Like Skyrim's great. I love the game, but I've never finished the storyline. Like I've been too busy.
Finished Skyrim?
I know, but and the thing is I'm such a story person. Like I want to be driven through like a good like literary experience, and for it I'm like, I think I got to maybe like probably 40% of the story and I was just too busy doing other side quests. Eventually I got burnt out and I was like,
That's where, like, I think that's where the games like The Last of Us and the BioShocks and all this, those work for you because it's a linear, like, hey, this is where you got to go.
It's interesting because I used to love like that open world experience. Like I was just crazy about it. The more that games had, the better. But I think the difference with me now is that like I had more time back then.
Right.
Whereas now that I'm older, I have less time to game. More time in the outside world where I'm working, trying to get life done, less time with gaming. And so those 2 to 3 hours before bed, it's so critical that like there is something that I'm enjoying, that I see some type of benefit from it, you know, where it's not like, here's a little bit of the story and then, or here's an open world and like you have only discovered like 15% of it.
Yeah,
and you've only
80
done,
hours to you now is an incredibly long time versus 80 hours when you were, you know, in your late teens, early 20s.
Right. So that's why like I think that's why MMOs just work for me. Or like even like quick like first person games, something like Overwatch or Dead by Daylight or Final Fantasy or WoW. Like those kinds of games, it's like with WoW I can get on, or Final Fantasy I can get on, maybe do a couple dungeons or so. And because how do I explain this? MMOs typically they don't become dated in a way, you know what I mean?
They just get updated
like,
and refreshed.
They just get updated. So like you don't have this need to like, I have to get things done quickly. Whereas like one of the reasons why I hesitate playing like the first Horizon is because I'm like, is it a little dated now? Is it a little bit older?
No,
like,
I wouldn't say so. Because I played it last year and I was like, this game's fantastic. I think it's probably one of the best out of the PlayStation, that era of PlayStation. Oh, the other one we've had, me and Pao jumped on this and it's a lot of fun. We got the Lego Skywalker Saga.
Is it fun?
Oh,
Everyone tells
so
me the Lego
fun.
games are fun and I'm like,
well, this is different from any of the other Lego games. This is more action oriented. Like the other Lego games are more puzzle oriented. You find the Lego pieces and you build the puzzle. Like you build the Lego piece that makes the gun to open the door. You know.
Okay.
Whereas this is more like a straightforward action, like Star Wars Lego. Like, you know.
Really? Neat. That sounds fun
It was
then.
so much fun. Oh, we're loving
What
it.
is it on the Switch?
You can get it on your Switch. You can get it on PC, Steam. It's on all your
Mhm.
flavors of choice, whatever your platform of choice is. We're playing it on Steam here on my end, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
I picked it up, and then I got a second controller for Pal here in the apartment, and we put it up on the TV, and then we're like doing split screen fun. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun.
I hear that this was a Nintendo Sports thing came out. I told
Pal
Dustin,
wanted
I was
that too,
like,
like the Switch
I
Sports.
want it, but inflation sucks and our groceries are expensive. So like I don't have a lot of like free room and our rent went up, so I'm like,
yeah,
no fun purchases.
you'll get there. You'll get there. You'll find it. You'll find the thing. And then I on a new book. I'm almost done with this new book.
I haven't read anything. It sucks. Like, what's your book though?
I always get the title mixed up, but I will accurately give it to you here. It was in that running for like book of the year last year, and it was also Obama's favorite book of 2021.
Was it a fiction or a nonfiction book?
It's a historical fiction from what I can gather.
Mm-hmm.
So this book, it's called The Final Revival of Opal and Nev.
I've never heard of it.
It was Obama considered it his favorite book of 2021, and it got its editor's pick on Amazon right now. Here, I'll drop the link in the chat here.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It's got really high reviews.
Let's see. So, it's historical fiction from what I can gather. So it's about this rock duo. One is named Ned. The guy's name's Nev, and then this woman named Opal, and Opal is a African American, and then Nev is a British white guy, and they form this rock duo. And it's one of these instances. These stories kind of like this intrigue me because it's just a small little sliver of moment in time. This rock duo only did 2 records. And then they had this wild live event or whatever that led to violence and all this kind of stuff. And their fame beyond that is tied to this one event. And the amazing thing about this book is it's told in that VH1 behind the music style, like dialogue.
Really?
It's like through interviews and stuff like that. And here's the amazing part of it. The whole thing's fictional. These 2 people were not real. They did not exist. But they've they fictionalized the whole world that you would think.
But it makes it seem like they're real people in time. Like,
yeah, because they talk about how like, oh, well, I'm doing the Netflix special. And if you watch me on the Netflix special, you can see me in the crowd. And that it's the stories told so vividly that I actually went online. I'm like, there's no way this person's not real. And then you look it up and the person and the people in the story depicted are completely fake.
That's actually pretty cool.
It's such a good book, Hannah. If you're going to read any one of these read this one.
I will add it to my Goodreads list.
It's fantastic. This would be one of the ones like you should be going to the library and trying to get because it's actually that good.
Huh. See, I'm such like a fantasy nut though. Like that's the problem. I tend to like stick with like my genre of choice. So it's always hard for me to break out of like that kind of, the fantasy, like.
That's where I thought this would like actually be up your alley because everything about it is fictional and it all takes place during the racism of the 60s and the 70s and all that kind of stuff. Like it just takes place in this ingrained era of.
I'll take a look at it. I'll add it to my Goodreads list.
I would even go on Amazon and read like the sample thing.
The sample pages.
Because it's told so vivid. I was like, this might be my favorite book I've read in the past couple years.
Wow.
Like I'm hooked on this book and I just keep reading it and I go, the chapters are like short, they're like 10, 15 minute chapters, a couple 30-minute ones in there. But like I find myself like at work, I'll take 10 minutes and read a chapter real quick while something loads or something like that, And like, it's just, I'm getting ingrained in this book. I've read it over the course of like 5 days straight, like 5 days total. And I'm like, this book's damn good. Her writing is fantastic. Like I was just like, it's just, like I said, the fact that they're told so well that you go and look them up and you'd be like, this person has to be real. And then like you find out the whole thing was fictional. Just the way they tell it.
That's so cool.
I can see why it got such high praise.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
It's
on
like
Goodreads.
Donnie Walton, you are a fantastic author. Fantastic author. And I just thought it was so intriguing how their fame is tied to this one tragic event in their start of their career. Like their fame takes off after it. Like it's incredibly well done.
I'm gonna add this right now.
Enough about me. Well, we got a few minutes here in the intro. What about you? What have you been doing?
I have not been doing anything other than working my butt off, which
That
is nothing new. But like I've like things have kind of slowed down a little bit. But I'm caught in a, I don't know if it's a rut, but more so like I was telling someone the other day. I'm like, it kind of sucks to like wake up every Monday morning and just know that I'm just trying to work till Friday. Like if
oh
I can
yeah.
just get to Friday. And that's not like a new groundbreaking revelation. Like that's,
Millions of
people
people in the
struggle with
world
that.
are like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like, how messed up is it that I wake up on a Monday and I'm like, my first thought is I can't wait till it's Friday. And, so I have like that itch again where I'm like, "Ugh, what should I do? How do I get out of it? Da, da, da." And
Yeah, no, that's hard.
yeah, but overall things have been pretty good, pretty steady. I haven't gotten sick. I haven't gotten any
I
colds.
got sick.
So, but Eric got it. So
Hannah gave
I'm
it to
just
me
going to
over the
take that
power.
as the indication. Like you getting sick was like the sign I needed to be like, all right, Hannah, it's done. It's now, we have
Which is
passed on the
weird
torch.
because like in the past couple years, especially during the pandemic, but like especially pre-pandemic when I was at the gym regularly, like I am again now, I rarely got sick. Like because you're eating better, you're exercising, and your body like gets tough on all fronts. It builds muscle, and you build resiliency to diseases, and like I don't know what happened. Something kind of like it got to the point where I was like, oh crap, maybe I caught COVID. I did not, according to the test they took. But I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna catch anything, it's this thing, And I'm like, no, it wasn't that. And so I guess it was just a really bad flu. But like, I'm okay. I'm fine now. Got a little bit lingering in the throat still. You can kind of hear it, but we're
you
functioning.
Have a little bit of that for
that
rasp
week or so. That rasp.
Yeah, the little post-nasal drip. It took me a couple weeks for it to like fully
Going to the
clear,
dentist with post-nasal drip sucks.
Oh man, I gotta go to the dentist on Monday.
That
next
sucked
Monday.
because like I'm sitting there like leaning back and like it's
You're
sitting
like,
right here, and then she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I have the thing," and I did the gesture with my nose, and she's like, "Oh," and then she gave you the sucker thing, and she's like, "Just spit it in there."
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay," but I'm feeling better. But like, I'm sorry you feel that way because that's hard. Like, and I've been there too, where it's just like I'm just trying to get to Friday.
Yeah, it's I will say like I do like my job as much as I do complain about it. Like this is like out of all the jobs I've ever had, this is like the best job, and we'll get to kind of talk about that category like in our episode, like when we start the episode. But yeah, I think it's just like I'm just getting like a little burnt out and just a little like kind of hoping like.
What sucks is it sounds like you need vacation, but you haven't actually had a chance to take vacation because be it your time off thing or you're sick when you use it, and like.
Yeah, I think I have like. I think when I check like 6 hours of PTO right now, saved up, but I actually have to, because my job is like one of those places, like if you're taking time off, whether it is for a doctor's appointment, whether it's for, you have to use the PTO. You can't just be like, no, I'm not going to use my PTO.
Bulk. Yeah, they give you a bulk thing.
So I have to take time off because I have a dentist appointment, but I also want to take that day to like get stuff done. I have to go to the Social Security office. I got to like get all my crap done. And I was like, I'll just take it off. And so I had to take that day. But Dustin and I have still not had our honeymoon, which is very frustrating. And we always talk about it. I'm like, usually when couples get married, they go right into the honeymoon. And I'm like, oh, we got married at a time where like literally right after inflation started happening, our rent went up. I kept getting sick. Like the time I did take off for our little stay at home honeymoon, I had the flu. So it was like, I'm just like, when are we gonna have our honeymoon? I don't want to wait too long to a point where it doesn't even feel like a honeymoon anymore.
You also got married during a pandemic, so
a pandemic, right? So
I don't think your marriage is normal by any kind of definition. By any means.
Yeah. So I just, I know our time will come with the honeymoon. I just got to be patient.
Don't worry, you're going to spend it in California.
Frustrating, just kind of like waiting for it. Like, and we want to go to California. We want to come see you this year. I want to go to like Pennsylvania to see my one friend. I want to go I just want to, I want to visit my parents, or not my parents, my family in Tampa.
You know what? I would like to go to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania seems cool.
Pennsylvania's very nice. I like Pennsylvania.
I keep thinking about, and I talk to Pal about this like all the time. It's like, I kind of want to see Nashville. I think about Nashville a lot.
Yeah, I know you always talk about Nashville.
I feel like
I have no inclination for Nashville. Like if someone's like, I'm going to Nashville, oh, that sounds cool. But it's not one of those places. Like I want to go to like Alaska, like,
See,
or
that would be cool
Wyoming or
too.
Montana, like these places where the population isn't that high, but it's just nature.
Yeah.
Like,
Like I think in Nashville a lot, and like, um, it's one of those things where it's like I think about it and I'm like, this place seems fitting for me. Like it feels so cool and all that stuff. Like I got to Florida, I was like, honest with you, I was like, I don't think this place is for me, but it's nice here, And I'm just like figuring out. If you're joining us on the Twitch chat here, welcome. We appreciate it. We love having you here. This is the good people in Erik and Hannah. So
welcome.
Welcome hanging out. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, your podcast listening of choice, and we appreciate that as well. So
should we just we had a long intro today.
Well, we had so much going on. The Amber Heard thing,
yeah.
the Amber Heard thing is a big deal, and I hope it all works out. And it deals with a lot of the stuff we talk about on this show. So
yeah, true.
mental and mental health and all that kind of. So we did some homework. Well, Hannah did this first, and Hannah assigned me homework.
Yes.
So let's talk about this. You took a course called The Science of Happiness. You can find it on Coursera. If you don't know what Coursera is a online platform where you can take a bunch of free college courses from all kinds of magnitude of different topics and interests, and you can, free education and learn about stuff. Mm-hmm. So we'll let you take the swing here. Explain to us what the science of happiness is without going into too much details of because I am at the start of the course, you have finished it.
Okay, so the general summary of the course is it talks about the science of happiness, like what makes us happy. If you think about it, how many self-help books are out there that talk about happiness? How many times do we think something makes us happy and then it doesn't? How many, oh, if I just had a better job, if I just got married, if I just did this, it talks about the scientific research behind happiness. I think I took it in 2020. I want to say middle pandemic, I was feeling incredibly depressed. I think a lot of people we were feeling isolated away from people. And it was just, we'd never gone through a pandemic before. So of course this is incredibly traumatic for a lot of people too, I was on, I was furloughed from my job, so I wasn't working, had a lot of time on my hands, and so I knew that when it came to happiness, a lot of the things that I thought made me happy clearly weren't. One of my best friends was taking this course. Shout out Nicole, because she was the one that told me about this. And I was like, I have time. I have all the time in the world right now.
Yeah.
Let me just take this course. It's free. So if anyone's like, I don't got money, it's free. It's by Yale. It's a course by Yale. So I ended up taking it and I had learned a lot. A lot of things that surprised me, a lot of things that did not surprise me. And I had recommended it to Erik, one, because he is more of a science. He wants the studies, he wants the proof. You talked about proof earlier in the podcast. So I recommended it, and so I have him taking it. I have already taken the course. I think there was just 1 week that I ended up missing because I forget why. So within this last few weeks, I caught up on it.
We can mention here too that the course is designed to do it at your own pace. It's not like a weekly class where you have to show up to an online, like an online Zoom or whatever and take a lecture. It's not designed that way. This is all videos, it's all documentation you can read, and you can take this all at at your own pace. So, feel free. Don't feel like you have to
don't feel like I ain't got time. It's literally, there's no homework. There's no professor that's there. It's
well, that's not necessary. There are some exercises that you are inclined to.
Oh yeah. Homework that they encourage you to do. But not necessarily.
Yeah. It's not like you do this Wednesday, you're going to get a grade. It's not designed that way. This is all pure, people that go to seek out the knowledge. This is what it's designed to do. So, when you thought about this, so you're thinking about the furlough from the job and the isolation, and plus on top of that too, Dustin wasn't in Florida with you yet, right? During the pandemic, or was he?
He was in Florida. He had moved,
but he was hours away.
He was on the west coast of Florida.
Yeah,
and so we were apart for a long time because of the pandemic. Like it
So you
was
were
several
like
months.
you were feeling isolation.
Yeah, I was just with my family.
Yeah. And
And
no friends and
yeah,
no,
and this was
relationship, like physical contact with your relationship. So it's
yeah.
like
Hmm.
I get it. So I guess so your friend Nicole took the course. So what in your head triggered where you're like, that sounds like a good idea, like I'm gonna give this a shot. Like what actually motivated you to go to Coursera and click the link and like read and get like what kind of hooked you on this whole thing?
It was more so that like I for a long time I had been kind of battling like some pretty deep depression and anxiety. And the a lot of like self-esteem issues. I feel like COVID just kind of amplified it.
Right.
Like you're forced to look at yourself even more in the quiet
So
when you're
weird, right?
stripped away from your friends, like maybe family that lives out of town, like and your whole world is on a device because like that's all you have at the moment. I was just becoming more heightened to the things that like were about myself that I didn't like. I was looking at my career situation and I'm like I don't have the job that I want. I wasn't married yet at the time. Like Dustin hadn't even proposed at that time yet, right? So
Yeah.
like I'm looking at myself and I'm like I'm in my late 20s. I don't have a wedding ring. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I don't have like this career like I'm trying to stream on Twitch. The numbers have gone down. Like I thought Twitch was going to make me happy, but it doesn't make me
Right.
happy.
It's
And
just
then like
everything
it's
crumbles.
like everything I was so heightened. I was so depressed. I was so anxious. And so I was like, I'm not someone that opposes science, as spiritual as I am, as much as I
Right.
am a woman of great faith. Like and that's not like a flex. Like I just have a lot of faith. Like
No.
you know, I don't oppose science. I believe that, God gives us science to just prove his glory more. And so I was like, I'm going to take this class, like see what it says. And because I was someone that was do you know how many self-help books I have consumed in like the last 5 years? I don't consume any self-help books anymore unless they're like more of like on a spiritual side. Like, but all the self-help books I've ever read, I would read them and then I would never take those things that they recommended or those
Like
the
the
suggestions or
exercises. Yeah.
yeah, I would never implement them. Like you would read them and be like, okay, and then you'd forget about it in 2 months. So I was just kind of like, all right, let's stop like the self-help good vibes kind of book and let me actually look at the science behind this,
Yeah.
And so
The world believes in you type of stuff.
I know, and honestly, like it's not that I can't stand that stuff anymore, and it's mostly because like I I wasn't getting anything from it. Like, okay, great, the world believes in me, but I gotta believe in myself, like
This is
or
interesting. Like this is interesting because we see this a lot in our world. Like,
Mhm,
with what me and Hannah do and like what we did. We see it a lot where it's like you can do this, just keep at it and everything's going to work in your favor and
mhm,
this is going to be you're doing great today. Like while those sentiments are nice and I appreciate those sentiments and I take those
mhm.
sentiments when I see them and I look at them, I'm like, you know what, that's a nice, it's a good idea.
Like I appreciate it. I
I
appreciate
appreciate
that.
it,
Right.
but I think the reality is like, and I stand by this reality, is the only ones that can really get us out of the rut we're in is ourselves. I truly believe this because I feel, I don't want to say this in a bragging way, but because that's what I did. Like I
Mhm.
looked at myself, I was like, there's no way I'm going to get out of what I'm in unless I do it. You know,
Right.
I can
And
read
and
all
I
the
take
self-help in the world,
yeah.
but if I don't apply it, then none of it's going to get me anywhere, you
Mhm.
know?
I take the stance somewhat of you, but I take it more in the sense that like I don't have the strength to do it, so I need help.
Right.
And so like my help comes from God. Like because based on my own strength I can't do it. So I need help. And so like I go to God for that. You look at it in the sense of like I need to do this and like,
Right.
But I don't believe in this whole like we've talked about this. If I'm looking for the validation of the world's not going to pull me out of the water.
Which is scary.
You know?
And this is going to be one of those hot takes I have where it's like, I think a lot of people post things and the things that they do in their situation and stuff because they look for validation. It's not necessarily that they're trying to get the help. I feel like people are looking for enablers sometimes. People that will rally behind them and be like, yeah, you know, I'm sorry you feel that way. You know, you're going to get through this. Da, 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 da. Like, whereas, and you see it a lot where someone's like, hey, I'm really, really sick. Like there's this person that I keep showing up in my Twitter feed where they talk about how they're sick and like, they're not going to do this today because they're in this pain and all this kind of stuff and you look at it and it's like, well, they have a lot of weight issues, you know, my heart, like I've got heart issues, breathing issues and stuff like that. But you look at them and you clearly see that it's, you know, they have a weight issue, you know?
And a lot of people would actually like, they would kind of confront you on like having that
like, yeah, hey, maybe
you know?
see a doctor, like, and actually, you know, or like, hey, you know, this is what the issue is, but then they get offended. It's like, well, you're not my doctor. Well, thank you, Captain Obvious, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I get it. I can, you know, because that happened to me and I was like, yeah, I know I have a damn problem, you know, like.
I think I'm at this point now where like I have people in my life that have told me like, and even people I'm not incredibly close to, but someone that's like, you know, like, you know, you've gained some weight, and they don't mean it in malicious, but like I had to get to that point where I understand where they're coming from.
Right.
You know, I don't take it to heart, like, because now if you would have caught me 5 years ago, I absolutely would have been like, mind your business. Like,
right.
It's going to be different for every person, but like, I've always said too, like the reason I'm out of breath all the time is because I'm just eating junk food. I'm not exercising. Like, I can take accountability for it. You know what I mean? Like the reason I'm not losing the weight is because I'm not actively trying. Now, if there are medical issues that are preventing that, like, you know, I'll find that out when I take those healthier steps. And if nothing, you know what I mean? But looking at it just based off my lifestyle, I can tell you if someone were to say, well, the reason you're gaining weight is because you're not eating right, I would have been like, yeah.
Or you're not, you know, or you're not moving enough. Like you're eating too much or you're not moving enough. And it's one of those things. Right. And that, like, I look at this and like, someone's like, hey, dude, you're like, you know, let's be realistic here. Your breathing issues and your pain issues and your ankles and your back and all, it's attributed to this. At least it's not the be all end all of why this is happening, but it's probably a good indicator as to why. And then they get offended. Well, thank you, Captain Obvious. Da, 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 da. It's like, and I get it because they probably hear this all the time when they post that stuff on social media, but put two and two together and be like, I'm putting this stuff out on social media to get enablers to be like, yeah, you're going to be okay. You know, like, I'm sorry you feel like, whereas like, maybe you shouldn't just put all your health and all that stuff out in the world to see. Like,
I think the only opinions that we should care about are the people that truly love us to our core. I don't think that, like, because if a Twitter troll were to come on and be like, oh, Hannah, you're fat because you eat this or you da-da-da, I would pay it no mind, one, because you don't know me.
Right.
You know? But if someone that I loved were to come to me and be like, hey, you are, you know, I'm just concerned about your health. Like, and it was someone I loved and trusted, I'd be like, you know what? That's someone I need to listen to, right? But I'm not in this place right now where I need the extra validation from strangers. Like, I think we've cultivated this culture of like, you know, I don't know how to say this, but like, I understand the intention, right? Because it's like we want to make sure people feel good. We want to make sure that people feel elevated and lifted, and there's nothing wrong with that. But does it become a problem when our worth is based solely on that? When our worth is based on the opinions and the likes and the comments of others. And we talked about that one podcast where we're creating generations of like people that are addicted to their phones because they're addicted to the notifications and the comments and the validation. So
the engagement and the validation, that's like determining like their worth. And you see this a lot too. And it bothers me. This is starting to bother me where it's like, you know, there's people's like genuine intentions and they're like they're famous. And you can clearly see that they're doing this just as the cash grab, you know, like they're doing this is the cash grab. And then people are like, well, you know, I'm like, come on, dude. Like, you know, you can't be real. And then someone comes in and be like, well, they're the famous and rich one and they're dating, you know, the hot, you know, actress of the world and da-da-da. It's like, it bothers me that people's value, or people determine they value their integrity based on their financial and, their social income. Like that's their integrity, and I'm like, that bothers me. Like, okay, this person's still fake. Who cares that they married a hot actress and they're filthy rich off it? Like, who cares? The integrity is still in question, and that kind of stuff bothers me. It really bothers me, the stuff that we value in the world today. And I'm becoming this person kind of like where I'm starting to think is like, the world doesn't need to know necessarily that I'm having this problem, Now, when it's all said and done and I figured it out and I realize what I need to do to take care of myself and kind of put it in place, then okay, then maybe I'll share it. But like, the world doesn't need to know that I don't feel good today, like they don't necessarily need to know that I don't feel good today. Now, this is just me. If you're one of those people that feels that helps you, that's fine. That's okay. If that's what helps you wake up in the morning and gets you that energy you need to get through the day, for someone to come in and be like, you know what, I'm sorry you don't feel good, but we can do this. Like, that's okay. I'm not.
But I would just exercise caution.
Right.
And not making it the foundation of like
everything you do.
Worth,
your worth.
Your self-worth, right?
So, and like the mental health argument too, where it's like, hey, I'm sorry, but mental health issues are not an excuse to treat people in a negative way. Like we talk about this Amber Heard thing, her mental, assuming that that's all true and, it's diagnosed and all that kind of stuff. That's not an excuse for what she did to him. She can't just be like, oh, well, I was mentally not in the right place. Like, that's not necessarily an excuse, It doesn't, like, it's not justifiable. Right. Again, that's the self-reflection type of thing. Like, it's like, hey, I have a problem. Maybe I need to go look at myself a little bit different. And that's the intention of a course like this. Hannah was in a place where she's not in the right mental space. So she sought out something different. The self-help stuff wasn't working. Like, the self-help books weren't necessarily working. So we tried a different approach, and like, I'm proud of it because it's like, this is Hannah taking responsibility for herself and being like, hey, I'm going to try something different, Yeah,
I had to, this was just kind of like something, and honestly, I was interested. Like, there was an interesting part to it. Like, I had this curiosity about it where I was like, how much money should I be making? Like, what actually am I just trying to grasp these things that are going to be empty? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So that, all of that, like what we just spoke about, like, that was kind of like the fuel to take this course, and just having an insane amount of time, and I needed to do something with my brain. And so, and the course is great. It's got like assessments on it, which we'll talk about and whatnot, but I'll let you.
On that note there, let's get into the assessments of this thing. So,
okay.
It's based
and let me say, any of these assessments I took it back then when I took the test, and then last night I retook them to see what like it looks like.
We're gonna get into that then. We'll get into that. Okay, so full disclosure here, as we always talk about here on these cases, neither Hannah nor I are certified psychologists or mental health professionals. These are all based on opinions and experience for ourselves. So nothing we should say here on this podcast or you watch on this video, however you say, it should be taken as medical advice. These are simply suggestions and things based on our opinions. And so, just so full disclosure, we get that out there because that's important. Absolutely. In layman's terms, take what we say with a grain of salt, but, give it a shot,
Yeah.
So this course is based on these two principles from what I saw here. It's based on what's called the PERMA score and the authentic happiness inventory.
Yes.
So
I have my notes up. I had like my iPad.
I have mine as well.
Because I was just writing like
Viva OneNote, right? So let's go ahead and let's. So I don't have exactly what the notes. What does the PERMA stand for? I should have written that down.
It's the. Oh, I was just looking at this.
PERMA.
Hold on.
Score. Here we go.
Is that the one that's like the authentic happiness score? Like,
no, that's the authentic. Okay, so
right?
It's called the PERMA profile. It's a general measure.
Oh yeah, I have it.
Developed for adults. Yeah. Okay, which measures flourishing in 5 domains: positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. So these are these 5 factors in your life here that should generate either they determine your level of, I'm guessing you're determining your level of happiness versus your level of depression.
Yeah.
These are the
So
5
like
components that
happiness,
make up that
I
profile.
would say satisfaction is probably going to be a better term
Yeah.
for it. So for anyone that's listening, you take like when you take the course, there's like a link to the assessment, so you'll take it. Um, I can tell you, I took this in July 1st, 2020. I
So
wrote
we're
the date down.
talking 2 years. Wow, almost
Yeah.
3 years already. No, 2 years. Almost 2 years.
Do you want me to list off my score here?
So let's go through kind of like each of these and we'll be here. So go ahead.
Okay.
Like, so I'm looking at this thing. So like you have different things here listed: positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. And then they have these added ones here: health, negative emotion, and
Yeah.
loneliness. So let's go ahead and let's go with the 2020 scores. Let's see like what we have here.
So for my 2020 scores during this time in my life, my positive emotions was at a 4. My engagement was a 7. Relationships was a 6.7. My meaning was a 2. My accomplishment was a 2. Health was 1. Negative emotions 7.33. Loneliness 7. And my overall well being was a 4.3.
Okay. This is what's interesting here. So judging by your numbers here that you gave me, you have a very low sense of self-worth, meaning like the actual term meaning is, was it off of 1, right? That's the one you had. The one it was meaning.
The meaning was a 2.
A 2. Okay, that was your lowest one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no, the health was a 1.
Health was the one. Okay, the two go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Just from what I've taken in psychology courses and stuff over there. So like your meaning, that's your, that I guess I'm interpreting this as your self purpose. Like, what is my purpose in life? What am I supposed to be doing? You
Yes,
have
exactly.
with a number, and these are scales of 1 to 10.
Yeah. So like the fact that I score, and this wasn't a number I gave myself. Like, let me make that clear
No,
to
this is
anyone
a
listening.
test.
I didn't like look at meaning and be like, I'm going to give myself a 1. This is the results that were generated based off the assessment that I took. So the test is telling me you view that as a 1, which I can say at the time it was absolutely a 1. Like, it doesn't even shock me.
So let's look at this in the way. So we should kind of elaborate on how the test actually is. So the questions on the test, you've seen these like in job interviews and stuff like that, where it makes a statement and it says highly agree, highly disagree. And then there's like different levels in between, kind of agree, kind of disagree. We've all kind of seen these in tests.
Right.
So that's kind of what they are. And so that's how it is. So it's asking Hannah these questions like, you know what you're supposed to do with your life, and it's either highly agree or highly disagree. So that's based on the way Hannah answered those questions. It also rewords the questions in certain ways to see if it gives you give the same answer, which is also very, very interesting. So
yeah.
the fact that she got a 2 on this, all those answers were very consistent and there was no variation in it. So from what I'm gathering here and basing on the interpretation of the test is your self purpose, your intentions and all that stuff, for like what your self purpose was. You had no idea what you had no direction in life with a score
No.
with a score that low.
This was like a season in my life where I was like still in the Twitch side of things, still trying to figure out that I wanted to leave it, but like like I was searching, like I was figuring it out. It was a very in between period of my life. And so in that brings off a lot of insecurities. Do I 100% step away from this? Like,
Right.
or because like I think I said like I had kind of really started to feel a certain way about Twitch in June of 2020.
And then
I took this in July of 2020.
Right. And then you kind of like, you're deciding whether I want to move on with my life and like, what do I do next? And then it comes out to that question, it's like, okay, I need to move on with my life. This is all I've been doing. What do I do next? So like it just, you don't have the answers lined up for yourself. So that's why your score is so low. And then the health thing ties with this, because when people feel like they have no self-purpose or worth, they get tied into this depression, which then depression is ultimately tied to health. You start, neglecting your health. You start overeating. You stop, exercising or being active. Some people stop showering and bathing and maintaining, personal hygiene and stuff like that. So
there was a point in my life where just like showering, I was always someone that showered, but like it was becoming difficult.
It's
for
like a
me.
task. Like it's a task you
it's
have
like,
to
why
do.
do I even want to do this? Like,
yeah.
so.
Which that's hard. See, I never knew this stuff about you.
I guess I just wasn't like too incredibly open about it. Sorry, I'm trying to get my iPad to like sit up so I'm not like looking down at the.
Do you need an iPad stand?
This is supposed to be an iPad stand, but I can't figure out how to like stand it up. I'm like struggling. Okay, I think I got it.
Do you have one of those, just in case you didn't know, do you have one of those things where like holds your book, that little V thing that you do and you put the book on?
I don't have those actually.
I totally would have thought you have, because I know you have a Bible in the home on display, so I figured you would have had it like.
No, I just have like the Bible sitting like on our chest,
yeah.
like.
Yeah, gotcha. But
I have it up now, so now I can view everything appropriately.
So this is like, so go give me your highest score now.
My highest score was, let me scroll.
It was down. A 7 something, right?
That was a 7. That was under engagement.
So
I don't remember how they listed engagement, like, but I would imagine that's like how you.
That's how you interact with other individuals.
Yeah.
Like in a sense, or no.
Yeah.
There's two, because you have relationships. I think those are tied to personal relationships. Like,
probably,
do you have a partner that makes you happy? You know, your family life, is that okay? But I think engagements is like how involved you become in group settings. That's if I remember that right. Like, it's one of those ones like, do you tend to be a leader? Do you tend to stand out from the group? Which is really, really interesting, because you scored low on your self-worth, but your engagement is high.
It might just be because, like, and I never thought of myself as like this, but I think I'm just a natural people person. Like, I can engage with people. Like, it's not difficult for me. It used to be very difficult for me, but it's pretty easy now. Like, and I enjoy it. Like, I enjoy getting to know people. So maybe that's it. I don't know.
I think one of the things too is like one of the things that like you and I actually have in common. And which is funny, because when I look at a relationship, like, you and I don't have a lot in common, but the things we do have in common are so strong that like it holds everything. Like, we have the core things in common, you know, like the important things. But like, I think one of those things is like, you know, it's like we're both very good at like hiding things when we don't feel right.
I think I'm good with hiding it in the sense of, I mean, I don't know, like.
Your engagement tells me that, because like you have low self-esteem and self-opinion of yourself, but when you put yourself in a setting where someone has to kind of like take charge or engage with a group or whatever, you do it, like you're open.
That's what my dad always said about me. He will always laugh at me because I used to be a very shy little girl. He's like, and then I became an adult. I can turn it on. If I need to turn it on, I will turn it on and be like, hey, how's it going? You know, but you may have no idea that I'm
right
that day. And I'm like, I want to jump off a bridge. Like, you would have no idea.
Right. You would have no idea that you're just like, you know, you're not in a good place, which this is really, really like, it's crazy how our brains work. This is like where science is a thing, you know, like, because it's all like one big puzzle. Like, it's just like our brains are one big puzzle. And it's like, well, this is how we work. But like, I'm in this state, but why is this one so high? And then what was your second highest score?
My second highest was I'm sorry. It says that, now I don't understand this. Like, I scored 7 on a couple things. I scored 7 on loneliness, 7 on negative emotions, and 7 on engagement. So I'm wondering, is the 7, because it's been a while since like I actually like watched the course.
What was your relationship one again?
My relationship's a 6. 6.67.
6.6, and then but your loneliness is.
I'm assuming because I don't know, when it says loneliness, I don't know if it's a 7 meaning I did feel lonely or I didn't feel lonely. You know what I mean? Like, does my loneliness score high, or I didn't feel lonely score high? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, the way that
I'm gonna, if I remember right, I'm gonna guess it is that your loneliness, like, it's like you feel high levels of loneliness because this is your overall well-being.
Oh, okay.
The whole idea is your overall well-being. So your overall well-being is below average, because it's like a 4. Right. So your loneliness would be like, you felt very isolated, and you admitted to this yourself. Like, you
Oh yeah. I
your
think
relationship is up. So your relationship with Dustin was strong because obviously you managed to work it through the pandemic with the long distance thing. But inside your head, all your other relationships are kind of stuff because you had a high level of loneliness.
I think a lot of it is I remember this so clearly. I always thought I was someone that like would thrive working from home, right?
Hmm.
And I realized being pulled away from my coworkers that I had grown to love. Like these were people that I love and I still love them because I'm back working with them. But I I felt such I did feel loneliness because I was like, I need to be around people. I think we create this thing, like, especially online or just in our society, where it's like, I don't need anybody. Like, I don't need people. Like, I just need myself. And then I realized that is so untrue. Like, I
No,
can't speak for everyone else, but I
we
can
need
say,
interaction to
we
function.
well, and I would say too, like we're meant to do life together. Like we are truly meant to do that. And so I was feeling the effects of it. I'm being pulled away from people that I love, that accepted me and cared for me and that were very much involved in my life. And I'm being ripped away from them and despite working, like nobody wants to go to work, but like
Oh,
I realized I was like, I need to be around people. And so now I'm lonely. I'm not with them. My boyfriend, he's living on the west coast of Florida. It's COVID. I can't visit him. I'm stuck in the house with my family. They're driving me crazy. Like,
yeah.
and the only other people that are available are on the internet, which at this time, the internet was like completely blowing up, like over with
Shit
everything
show.
going on. And so I was just like, I don't even know what to do. Like, I was like, who I don't know.
It's funny how
Like,
it's like you bring this up because this is where we're actually like one of those things where we're complete opposites. In a
mhm,
work environment, keyword work environment, I
mhm,
prefer home. I thrive when I work at home because I'm comfortable, I'm relaxed, but on the time, I don't have people coming to me with random problems that slow me
mhm,
down.
mhm.
I don't get water cooler talk too. Like, oh, I'm not gonna lie, I engage with the water cooler talk, on my own occasions too.
Yeah.
Like, no one's perfect, but like people come to me sometimes with stuff, and I'm just kind of like, do I need to be hearing this right now? Like, I got work to
Oh,
do.
see, I didn't even realize this. Like, I love talking to people. I love conversation. I don't like small talk, but I love,
Right.
just having like these conversations with my coworkers and being a part of their lives and them being a part of my life. Like, um, I really did think. I thought for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, I was like, I'm gonna do great working from home because at one point I had to work like a contract job
Yeah.
from home, like working from the computer. And when I can tell you that it was the most depressed period of my life, like I would wake up with just full blown panic attacks, crying. The idea of sitting behind a computer for 8 hours a day answering phones, like literally, it, it was so difficult for me. And even now, like I'm working, a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 job right now. Um, if I could I've realized something about myself. It's that I like to work. I enjoy working,
Hmm.
but I do need balance.
So here's
So
what's
like
funny.
mhm,
My 2020 interview, which was the pandemic interview, I got my
right.
review, right? My
Yeah.
2021 review, which was,
Mhm.
just after the pandemic kind of started easing off and stuff like that, and we were full swing working at home, my productivity doubled according to my
Did it?
boss. Like my stats and everything doubled
Mhm.
in my 2021 because I had been working at home for a year. And that's what I
Wow.
was saying. It's like, he's like, as soon as we started working from home, your productivity doubled. And not, honestly, I wasn't the only one, not just in my department, but
Mhm.
in several departments across the company, productivity
Mhm.
doubled once we went to work from
Yeah.
home. And then the bosses and the powers that be kind of looked at it and they're like, you know what? Maybe this work from home thing isn't really an
That
issue. It's our productivity
yeah.
is up because there's multiple factors that go into it. These don't
Mhm.
necessarily apply to me and Hannah, but they apply to a lot of people in the world. It's like, well, there's things like commuting. People commuting 2 hours every day of their life is
Mhm.
a huge drain. It's a stressful drain, especially if you're in a high traffic area like I am in LA, or Hannah is
Mhm.
technically in a high traffic area by Miami. So, like, it's a high traffic, and I'm sure there's people that commute from where you live to Miami all the time. So it's one of those things where it's like you're in traffic an hour a day. You're already stressed by the time you get to the
Mhm.
office. Like you're already in a
Mhm.
negative space by the time you get to the
Yeah.
office. And then you get to go home and sit in traffic again, and then you're in a negative space because you're with your family and you're supposed to relax and enjoy your family time, but you've been in traffic for an hour, so you're miserable. And then you go to bed and redo it all over again for 4 more days, right? So like the fact that productivity doubled, especially on my end, which tells a lot about me and you. Like you're a person who thrives in people interact. That's why your engagement's so high. You just admitted to why your engagement is so high. You love being around the people and talking and, you know, engaging with coworkers and stuff. That's why your engagement's so high.
I always saw myself as an introvert, and I do believe that I am an introvert, but I would say I'm along the lines of like an extroverted introvert, where
you're in the middle. There's no black
I like
and white.
to be out, you know, but you know, after working all week, I'm home. Like one of the interesting things about Dustin and I is he works a job where he has to commute a little bit further than I do. He's in front of the computer 8 hours a day. Me, I work a job. I'm on my feet all day. I'm with people. I'm talking. I'm using like my physical body like all the time. I come home exhausted. So by the time the weekend comes, like Saturday, he had to go to work today. But usually what happens, he has a lot of energy. He wants to go do a bunch of things. I don't want to do anything. My meter has completely...
You're done.
I'm done. Like, please, I need a day where I just need to lay in bed, play some video games, not talk, go do anything. But we have to find a balance because he's been in front of the computer all week. I've been on my feet all week.
I look at this as funny too, because I look at it because like I purposely pick a like there's a day like where I will purposely not bring any podcast in stuff to you. I don't know if you've noticed it, but like there's always one day out of the thing where it's just a simple like I'll send you random funny stuff or like random things I've seen throughout the day. It's like personal.
I've never like noticed it, like, but now that you say something, I notice it.
Yeah, like there's days where I don't mention podcast anything to you. And then you'll bring it up and be like, hey, are we going to do this, that, this, or this? Especially, it's usually on a weekend, like this, that, this, or this. And I'll be like, oh, we're just going to do this. And then I stop that type of conversation because I know you want normalcy. Like you want that day to yourself. And I know that. And I respect that too. Everything. There's been times where you're like, I can do it. And I'm like, go sit your ass down and just relax. Jesus. Where it's like, leave me alone and go relax. You know, but it's like I've never said that to you, but it's like, hey, like go chill, you know, do your thing. We're fine, we're good, we're comfortable, you know, it's okay. And like it's because I respect, you know, just how I expect my days to be respected, where it's like, hey, this is my day to day, like in my life, you know. It's like I respect your day, where it's like you say, I just want to do this and not do anything work related. I will give you that, you know. Because honestly, I'm one of those people where it's like, as long as we get up here and we do what we need to do and it goes well and stuff like that, I don't care how we get there. Like, you know, like I don't care how we get there. I don't care if, you know, like we did it and it went well. Like, that's cool. I'm happy. Like, I'm not one of those people where it's like, we got to do it this way, this way, this way, and this way.
Yeah, you're pretty chill about it.
It's just like, hey, let's just do it and get it done. And if it goes well, awesome. If it goes bad, then we'll talk about why it went bad. But like most of the time, it's just like, boom, let's go and let's do this. So now that you've gone through all of this stuff, you've done the course. And to keep this is all new information to me. I'm seeing Hannah's results for the first time here. Like we have not talked about it.
Did I give you, so there are two. There's the PERMA, which I gave you my overall well.
Oh yeah, let me get the authentic happiness score. This is just a flat number between 1 and 5, I believe.
Yeah, so the authentic happiness score, again, I didn't pick this number. This was based off the assessment. My authentic happiness score was a 1.6.
That's... Well, I can't really talk because I'll explain when I go into my part of this thing. So what I'm really, really interested to know here, because I want to learn about what you learned in the course, but one of the most important things I want to learn about your part of the course here, I want to know what your strengths were. This is done in the first week of the course where you are outlined your strengths, like your signature strengths. These are the things that you utilize to maintain your happiness. So I want to know what your 5 strengths are.
Okay, so I'll give you like the current one because like I took it again. Okay. And everything stayed the same except for one, but I'll give you the current one just because it's more present. Okay. So my current one is spirituality, humor, social intelligence, gratitude, and perspective. So it has you list like 4 on the thing, but I just gave you like the top.
Let me get them one more time.
It's spirituality.
Obvious.
humor,
Okay.
social intelligence, gratitude, and perspective.
So your faith is your spirituality is a given. Like that's obvious that you're number one because
Yeah,
you live and function by your spirituality. That's who you are. Like
yeah.
your spirituality is a
That's my
roadmap.
foundation. That's my core.
That's a roadmap of your life.
Yeah.
Humor is obvious because I've always known you to be a funny, humorous individual.
Thank
You use humor. You are me because you use humor to lighten up situations. Also, you're one of those.
I do it all the time.
You'll be like, ha 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 ha. How about that Amber Heard shit in the bed? Ha ha ha. Like you're that person.
I'm the person that plays office pranks. I'll be honest.
Oh yeah.
Before COVID started, like I had become really close friends with this one, like my co-teacher at the time.
Yeah.
She unfortunately she went to another job after COVID. But my co-teacher at the time, and she's like a woman in her like 50s, right? But I would always I bought the fake bag of poop. I bought it, and I would I put it around in the office or in like where I work. I put it, and I just remember she went into the room and there was this moment of silence, and my coworkers and I are cracking up in the background because you knew that she was looking at this fake poop and processing what
happened.
She was just I don't even fully remember because we just started cracking up at that point.
The mouse and the wheels just spinning in their head.
Yeah, but the most elaborate prank I had ever done, not really a prank, I always teased her because she's someone that if somebody was giving something away, she would collect it. You know those people that's it's oh, I have a box of clothes from home. She's the kind of person that's I'll take it. Not even knowing what it is.
Yeah.
And so I always made this joke amongst my team. I'm I'm going to write a children's book about her called Sally Takes Things. Let's say her name was Sally. So I went home one day and I got crayons out and I made a full book and I called it Sally Takes Things. And I drew pictures of her taking things from different people. And it's Sally takes the bubble wrap from the custodial staff and these were things that were actually happening. And so I brought it in as a Christmas gift, and the entire staff was just in love with this book. They thought it was the funniest thing. People were peeing their pants and they're the fact that you did this. And it's because for me, I love making people laugh. Because it's happiness, right? I don't want people to feel so uptight around me.
Thinking about it too is
yeah.
I look at your relationships, and I've always interpreted Dustin as a serious guy.
I'm more serious than him, actually.
Dustin to me has at least compared to me, Dustin's always been a more serious one. And his friend Ty, I think, is the same way. They're both more serious than me in terms of.
See,
I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
They're goofballs.
Yeah.
They're goofballs. But go ahead.
But or it's just maybe when he's around me, or our interactions, he's always very he's very serious with me, I think, in terms of conversation and so he's very serious with me.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with it. I cherish the friendship with Justin just as much as I do with you, because they're two different relationships, and he's always been more serious and more kind of I think me and Dustin have more. We have more those grown up adult male conversations, those type of topics, versus me and you, where we'll have pointless conversation, like I said, about Amber Heard and how she's just nuts, and that kind of thing. But no, it's always interesting. So that's interesting. So he's complete goofball with you. So you two are perfect for each other. See, me and Pao are very humorous with each other.
Yeah, Dustin and I laugh all the time. I would say but the interesting thing though is my sense of humor is very different than his sense of humor.
Yeah. See, I had this.
Have you ever been on my TikTok? The TikTok account I have?
Yeah.
Have you seen the one where he's laughing at that stupid video for 5 minutes? And it's not even funny. That's his kind of sense of humor. He's just and he has the goofiest laugh when something makes him when something sends him to the moon. He just won't stop. Whereas I think I have a wittier sense of humor. I like intelligent humor. Whereas he could watch a video of an ostrich dancing in rain boots and it would just make his day.
This is funny too, because It's funny because like movies, like I think one of the best comedy movies ever made was Shaun of the Dead. I think it's also one of the best horror movies ever made, right? But it's, if you don't know what Shaun of the Dead is, it's basically a comedic interpretation of Night of the Living Dead, which is an old 60s zombie movie that all zombie stories are based off nowadays, right? But it's all a comedic interpretation of it. But it's British humor. So it's very like thought out, like one line will tie into, like the joke at the end of the movie will tie into a line that was made at the beginning of the movie like 2 hours earlier and you may have forgotten it.
Yeah.
But if you're one of those ones that pays attention to the dialogue and everything, the joke will make you laugh. And I'm one of the, like, I love that humor, right? But then again, like, toilet humor wins me over all the time. You don't know how many, like, stupid fart TikToks I've sent to Pao. Just like, look at this. Like, this is stupid, but it makes me laugh for, like, minutes on end.
I do like those. Like, I will say, I do like those. Like, what's that one movie that just makes me laugh all the time? Is it Young Frankenstein?
Oh, Young Frankenstein's a classic.
Yeah, that one. Oh, and that's not incredibly, like, intelligent humor. It's like,
no, it's bare bones. Like,
but that always makes me laugh. But like, if anyone's like, I don't even think my TikTok's public, but like, when you get the chance, go back to my TikTok and look for the one of him watching the video, and like that'll sum it up completely.
You're just like, what the hell? It's not funny, but like,
I was like, and he just laughs at things, like. Yeah. But we are goofballs, and I will say, when Ty and Dustin are together, they're goofballs.
What the running gag I have with Pal, and I think the running gag's starting to run out because she's catching on to it. But like when we first started dating, I used to do all this stuff. I used to do this thing where it's like, I would, let's say for example, I'd stub my toe, but like I would be like I'd make it look like I'm in agonizing pain. Yeah. One time I remember it was like maybe our third or fourth date. We were walking down the street, right? And there was this big cactus like poking out of a fence. So I made it look like I like stumbled and I went into the cactus with my arm. And I was like, oh my God, right? And I'm like holding my arm and everything. She comes back. She's like, oh my God, are you okay? And I'm like wincing there for a moment. And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And then we went, like, we kept walking. Well, she was like, what the hell? Like, because I made it look like I was in pain, right? And then, but she got me yesterday because we were doing something and like I gave her a hug or something and like her glasses like smushed into her eye.
Yeah.
But she did that whole thing where she was like, oh my God. Like she's like sat there. Like I literally poked the shit out of her eye. Right. And I'm like, oh my God, no, she's blind. Right? I'm like, are you okay? Are you okay? And she's like, and then she's like, yeah, I'm fine. And then I was like, son of a bitch.
You're like smooth.
Yeah, she got me back.
You're rubbing off on
her. What were the last two again?
The last two were social intelligence, and I'll give you the last three: gratitude and perspective.
Gratitude, you're a very, very grateful person. You appreciate everything.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is like before when I was comparing the results from like the last time, like my gratitude wasn't very high last time. It's completely changed. And that was like the one that was like scored really high and then like it went or it scored high here, but it wasn't high for the first time I took it. So I've become more grateful for life. I've just become more grateful. My perspective has always been high, even with the first time I took it. Which is like seeing things from someone else's perspective, understanding why someone's upset, like, or, you know.
So what did you kind of like the course, like obviously going through the course exercises, which I'll explain kind of like when I talk about what I did, the course exercises, what did you start to learn about like yourself, like, and the things that you can improve on? Like, what did you start learning about? Like, what started ticking for you where it's like, oh, I could do this and I could do that? So
I would say like one of they have you do like a lot of different like little exercises. Like 1 week, like you're savoring. They talk about savoring. Which essentially like kind of the summary of it is stepping outside of an experience to like view it. So it's like, let's say you go to Disney World, for example, right? And like with the trip's over and it's been a week now and you miss it, like to sit in that moment and just look back on it and savor it. Like instead of being like, oh, it's over, think back on it and think how good it is. So like week 2, they had you doing that. At one point they had us do like a daily gratitude journal, which was very difficult for me because I found like at times I was being repetitive. you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can always find things to be grateful for, but, I think we have the tendency to think of, like, the big things like,
Right.
oh,
Oh yeah, because
the
it's that
sun and the
Thanksgiving mentality of like, I'm thankful for
right, it's
this,
like
that,
that
this, and
yeah,
this.
what are you grateful for? And week 3 was random acts of kindness. And they had a bunch of different exercises. But I will say, I don't think it was necessarily the exercises that helped me. They weren't necessarily something that, like, I took with me and, like, continued to implement them. This is personally what worked for me. It was I took a good look at my strengths,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is a very key part of this whole thing, and really in kind of changing, like, your view of the world. I took those 5 strengths and I utilized them more everywhere. Like, we'll talk a little bit about career, but, like, in the career section, they said that, like, you could look for all the jobs that you want and think like, "Oh, I'll get more money for this job. It's going to make me happier." Like, eventually you're going to get burnt out or tired, or, like, that newness of the job goes away, but something that can kind of keep that happiness within your career is to find jobs that will utilize the strengths that you have, or take those strengths that you have and utilize them at your job.
So this is
So the
interesting
job
you bring this up,
Mm,
and I'll sorry to interrupt, but I'll bring this up because it kind of
no,
fits in
go.
here. So like Pal right now is going through that situation where she's doing the field work and all this stuff, so she can get started,
Mhm,
and she's not necessarily happy with the places she's at for the field work, because
mhm,
Pal is a very, like you, engaging, and she wants to make it fun, and she wants to be creative with how she does treatment and all this kind of stuff. So the place
right.
she's doing that doesn't give her the it doesn't give her the environment to do that, be
Mhm,
it their funding, etc., time, stuff like that. So she's been kind of down and out about it. And I told her, and I was like, the one thing you're going to have to do when you start looking for, because like when you look for your first job in your career, note how I said career,
mhm.
they're very different. You're
Yeah.
not just looking for a retail gig or, something to pay the bills in the media. Like, this is your career. You're expected to go
Mhm,
and you're going to spend X amount of years there. One thing I told her, I was like, you need to go out and you need to find and research the places that will practice the way you want to do things. And that's what they engage in, and that's what
mhm,
their treatment's based on and stuff like that. Like, that's how they work.
mhm.
You want to find
Right.
those places that will let you thrive in how you want to do what you want to do. That's part of finding
Mhm,
your career. And yes, pay is important and you need to be paid what you're worth, but you also need to find the factors in this place allows me to do what I want to do and put how I
mhm,
want to do my job for the next 40 years of my life. As scary as it sounds,
mhm.
right? The next 40 years of your life, like, this job will
Right.
let me find out, like, express how I want to work.
Mhm,
And that's what I was telling her. And it's kind of clicked in her head where she's like, okay, the place I'm at right now is not the time to do what I want to do, but I will find
mhm,
the place that lets me do what I want to do and will help me
mhm.
thrive in what I want to do. And that's important. Like you were just saying, you need to find the place that will make you happy.
Right.
Like, you have to
I
find the job
and if you're in a situation where you're stuck at the job that you're at, you have to use, like, the strengths that you have.
to
So, like,
supplement.
for example, and I think this is a really good example with Twitch, right? I can use humor, I can use social intelligence, I can use gratitude, and I can use perspective. I was not using spirituality because I felt like, kind of like, nobody wants that. Nobody wants to hear about it.
This is
No
a
one wants to
whole
deal with it.
different topic for a whole different
Yeah,
thing we're going to talk about
yeah.
somewhere down the line.
Somewhere
But,
down the line, but it gives, like, a glimpse. Spirituality is, like, my number 1.
right.
I'm essentially removing that. That's, like, a core of who I am. Like, I'm not gonna ever deny it, but I'm removing it. Because I'm trying to appease the crowd. I'm trying to make people feel good. Like, despite that I want nothing more than to talk about my faith, that I want to just express how joyful I am about it and how it's a roadmap for my life, it's my foundation. I know people don't wanna hear it, and so here I am using these strengths, but I'm not using the one most important to me,
Which
and
is
that's
funny too, because now you're actually, like, when we talked about the last episode, how you're doing the women's group, and it's all,
Mhm,
it's highly spiritual women in this women's group in this gaming space. Like, there's a you found out, obviously, there's a market for what you want to put out there, but you were so
mhm,
afraid that people weren't. You looked at the negative right away. Like, no one wants to hear me preach about the Lord while I'm playing video
yeah,
games. That's not necessarily
yeah,
true. Do I personally
yeah,
want to hear that? Not necessarily.
mm.
But to say that, like,
Yeah,
that's not true,
yeah,
that there's nobody, because there's a
right,
ton of people out there. And
right,
this happened a lot with the whole Mixer thing. People would be
mhm,
like, well, people are moving to Mixer, but all they play are COD and Battlefield and first person shooters and Fortnite and all that kind of stuff. I play Mario and no one plays Mario on Mixer. I was like, go play Mario on Mixer. Make the market. If that's what you want to do, go make the market. You're in prime position to do it because no one else is. Just how like you is like, oh, I want to make spiritual content on Twitch. Okay, go make spiritual content on Twitch because there's a market for it.
Right. And I think that's
and
one
not
of the
only
big reasons
that,
why.
not only do you touch the spiritual market of it, but to an extent you touch the family friendly market of it too, because parents will be like, oh, this person's, spiritual, they're religious, we're a good, wholesome Christian family. I'd like to love my kid watch that instead of so-and-so, who's negative all the time and yelling at TV. So like,
I think the interesting thing though, it was even finding that like, I didn't necessarily want to like create content to like preach the gospel, right? Like that wasn't what I was necessarily looking for. I wanted to find like, I don't know, it's like I would look at it and be like, how are video games and Jesus gonna mix into one? Like, I was like, there's no way I can do it. There's no way. And so like I just removed it, and now kind of talking about, I have like a women's group that is separate from Twitch. It's not something that has to do with Twitch, but I feel and it's a volunteer thing. I do it voluntarily with my time. I would rather do that and make no money than to go back to Twitch and make thousands of dollars and sacrifice that part of myself. I won't do it. Like, you could be like $1 million, come back to Twitch and like not talk about Jesus. I'd be like,
keep your money.
I would rather have, make no money and do it with like a few group of people, a few group of women that, we're just kind of doing life together, and we share this common value, we share this core belief, and like, I would rather do that. I get much more joy and fulfillment.
I'll go talk about Jesus on Twitch for $1 million. You may not want to hear what I have to say. You may not like what I have to say about it, but I'll talk about it for $1 million. Exactly. Yeah. As funny as we talk about it, and we say this all the time, is like, I'm very critical of like religion and spirituality and all that kind of stuff. But I deep down at the core, I always respect Hannah's, wishes in terms of her spirituality and everything.
It's because I don't shove it down Eric's throat.
You don't, like, and you absolutely don't. But every time you do talk about your faith and all that kind of stuff, like, I've always respected it, like, because that's who you are. You're a person.
You've always been probably one of the most respectful atheists when I do kind of just mention it. Like,
because I'm sitting there,
you really have been. Like, there have been so many instances where I'm just like, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut because like I know I'm gonna hurt, like, not even hurt someone's feelings, but I know they're gonna look at me and be like, ugh, or like, you believe that, like, or that makes me uncomfortable. And so like, I've never been preachy to Eric at all. I mean, the guy came to my wedding
in a church.
He came to like in a church.
Not only that, it was a
Christian church.
No. Let's get the details. I'm gonna be realistic with you here. It was not just a church, okay? It was a Christian mega church.
It was a mega church
where these big gigantic churches. Where I have big opinions on big, gigantic mega churches, which... Oh,
I know you do.
If anything, that's kind of like one of the problems I do have with religion are those places. But your church, right. you've relayed like your church... And I thought your what do they call for the wedding? The officiator. I thought the officiator for the wedding was very funny, like, and witty and classic and, full-on Italian, right? Like, he was a full-on Italian guy.
No, he's Cuban.
Oh, okay. Anyway, the guy had some Latin vibe to him, and I was like, okay, this, is full on, Oh, he was very New Yorker. I think he sounded very New Yorker, if I remember right.
Did he?
He almost had that forget about it type of thing, I was like, okay, I like this guy. But like, he works for a while, but like him as a person, I was like, this guy's all right. I don't, I'm too old now to take all this stuff with like, full on, like, which all these young people now do, like they take every word that's said as something like that and they form an opinion around it, and like they have to put their full on hot take around everything that's said and done, and I'm just like, I'm too old for that now. Like, I'm just enjoying my friend's wedding. Like, I don't need to make some kind of thing out of my friend's wedding. She's having their day and we're enjoying it. Like, I don't need to make anything out of it. I don't need to go out front. People are preaching about it.
People are going to have their opinions. Yeah, I know people are going to have their opinions about it. I try to approach it with a sense of like,
and when you talk about it, I've always listened to you talk about it. Like, I've never been never been like, Hannah, get away with that. Like, go out of here.
I mean, if Eric asked me questions, I would, and I'm not, sit here and say I have all the answers because like I'm always going to be a student
No one
of this
does.
stuff. But I understand that like, as a Christian, like, and you an atheist, like we have a very unique friendship, and like I have to always remind myself like there are going to be Christians out there that are going to be poor representations of it, and so I have to always remind myself like
That
I
you're
might
not
be the
that.
only well, not necessarily, because I mean I'll have my flaws, right? I'll have,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not perfect, but I have to remember the responsibility of like, you know, I could be the only representation to somebody, you
Yeah.
know? If like no
Right.
one has ever met a Christian in their entire life and I'm sitting here being like, "Well, F you, this, you suck, like I hate you," like, and I never think those things, but if I were like that, I'm going to be a poor representation for Jesus.
Goddamn
Like,
atheist.
and so like I have to remember like the responsibility and the importance of like this, like I need to make sure like, hey, we're not all crazy wacky people. Like,
No, you're
um
not, you've never been that, wild extremist type of person. Like, you've never been that. You've just been a person that's very, keen on their faith, and
spiritual.
like, that's okay with me. That's
Oh
okay
yeah.
with, yeah. And like I said,
Yeah.
that it's, which is just weird how like, it's not actually, I'm not going to say it's weird because I think the core of our foundation of our relationship, your and mine, is that we're always able to have conversation and discuss things, and we're always willing to hear the opposing side of all of it. You know,
Yeah. And I don't think we're actually like that with as weird as it is, as spiritual as I am, like, and as logical as you are. I don't the, what's fascinating to me is there's a lot of common ground in so many things,
yeah,
despite the faith
right.
and the,
Um,
non-belief, like
I
kind of.
have good news for you before I forget this
Yes.
thing, but it has to do with, the thing about like your friends and you're engaging with your relationships and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
remember a few months back or a couple podcasts back where I was talking about like I owe my friend a phone call. So I
Yes.
finally made the phone call, and I
You
wished
made a
him a
phone
happy.
call.
I wished him a happy birthday, and I felt like
Uh-huh.
I was like mentally in this place now where it's like I'm ready
Mhm.
to start like re-engaging with all these friends that I feel like I've left, in the lurch, and like
Mhm.
it bothered me a lot. Like I was like,
Mhm.
because I feel like I lost a lot of sight of myself. But like I made the phone call and I started talking about his family, and he's telling me about what's going on with his life and what he's doing. He's doing well. He's
Oh,
doing well. And
good.
like I said, one of the goals I'm going to do, like now that the pandemic, I don't want to say the pandemic's quote unquote done and gone, but like
Right.
it's settling, is even that's a loose
Mhm.
word, but it's like, the situations are different now than it was before. And as like one of the goals
Mhm.
I want to do is like I want to finally go and meet your children, because like he's had 2 kids
Oh
and I
yeah.
haven't met and engaged with either of his children, and that bothers me a lot
Mhm.
too, where it's like this has been my best friend for years and like I haven't even
Mhm.
met his children yet.
Mhm.
The last time I saw him and his wife was at the wedding, and they live in the same state, a couple, I don't know, not even an hour away.
Mhm.
And that bothered me a lot too. And like this is all that reflection you do when you kind of start getting like your life in order, and you're kind of like, that's messed up. And
Mhm.
I'm glad I
Yeah.
made the phone call. It was fun.
That's
He's doing really
good.
well.
Yeah. What episode was that? Was that the friendship episode? Or was
Yes, that
that?
was
I
a
feel like
friendship
it was a
one.
while ago.
That was a friendship episode. That was a couple months
Oh,
back. And
well,
yeah, no, I made the phone call, and I'm like starting. That's one of
good.
those things where I
I'm
start.
glad. I'm
And
proud of you.
we talked
I'm sure it
about
was a
like,
little nerving.
yeah, no, well, we talked about like the problems I had, and like the
Mhm.
issues I had and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'm working through them. I'm working through them, and I'm doing better. You know.
That's good.
Yeah, because
I'm
that was a
glad. I'm
big
proud
thing
of you
too.
for
Like
that.
that was a big thing too. Like I think that had a lot to do with what happened with my relationships and how I kind of became isolated and stuff.
Mm.
So no, I'm glad I'm glad I made the phone call.
Good for
It
you.
was very lifting. It set the whole mood for my day. Where I was like,
Good. You got like kind of like that good, like not necessarily closure, but like
yeah,
the like I don't know what the word is, but like you got like a sense of like you got a little bit more grounded from the
yeah.
situation. Like
It was funny because I went to my mom's that day, and
mm.
I love my mom. With everything, just like you love your parents. But like my mom does things that annoy me. And I went in there today. I was like, you're not going to
Yeah.
do this, or this today and get me annoyed because I'm having a good day and I'm putting that out here now. And she's like, okay, you know, see,
Uh,
like I make my mom well aware of the things that annoy me. I don't know if you do that with your dad, but like I make I make things well out there. I'll be like, you do this and this annoys the hell out of me. Stop
oh,
doing
I
it.
do that with my like mom. Like I'll be like,
Oh, we're back to the
that's
tablet.
irritating.
Hannah's tablet fell again.
Yeah, I fell again.
If
Oh,
anyone out
I,
there wants to send Hannah a tablet holder,
I know, like, it can hold itself up, but like my brain is like, how do you put this?
I don't even have an iPad. You got the one with the pen. I'm jealous.
Yeah, that was like, oh, because I wanted to learn. You know, when like COVID was hitting and like people were getting iPads to like learn how to draw. I was like, oh, I want to do
I'm gonna
that,
take
and
a new
then like,
hobby.
oh wait, I think I got it.
It's a triangle, girl. Like it folds like a triangle in the back.
Does it?
Yeah.
I'm like having such a hard time. Should we like go to break now?
Okay, so
Or did you?
I'll show you how to do this. Okay, let me get the one I have. Where did I put that
Okay.
tablet? Where did I put that tablet? I will get the one I have. Okay, hold on.
Okay. Wait, are we going on break or are we just?
No, I'm gonna explain this to you on
Oh,
podcast.
you're gonna explain it on air? Oh God.
I'm gonna explain it on here, right? So what I'll do is I will put you.
No, I'm gonna get this.
You're full cammed. So the
I have
world
a
can
bachelor's
see you.
degree. I swear. I graduated high honors. It's not. What is wrong?
Okay,
Thing.
I have one here.
Oh gosh.
All right, so I'm gonna explain to you how this works. If it's anything like
Okay.
mine, which I think it is,
Okay.
so you take it, right?
All right. I got it right here.
All right, so here's one here, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so this, you have the thing where it's at like 3. Okay, pretty close.
It opens like, yeah.
Okay,
So we're going to pretend that that's there. Okay.
So what you do is you take it and it folds like a triangle. And
Mine
it goes,
does not
it
fold
goes
like a
like
triangle.
that.
Wait. No.
Was it, girl, the struggle hurts me. We will figure it out. We'll give her another minute here and then see if she figures this out. Oh.
This is not.
Wait, hold it up for me. Like hold it up like full on laid out. Okay. I think that little flap goes
It's like
on
the triangle part,
no,
right?
that goes on the inside of the triangle. I think.
Wait.
This is the best content ever, guys. Don't worry, this will get 5 million views on TikTok when I put this as
I'm gonna look stupid. Like everyone's gonna be like, "There's a girl that can't put her."
When you want to make a movie, would you make $1 million? We'll pay you $1 million to look stupid fixing a tablet.
You don't have to pay me $1 million. I'm doing it right now for free.
She dropped everything. Oh no. Okay, tell you what. On top of the awesome good people with Hannah mug, we're gonna send Hannah a case for her iPad. Oh, I think Pal might be helping you here. She has one of these. Roll it all the way.
Roll it all the way? Like, what do you mean? Like roll it? Like,
this is so good. We're going to go to break and let Hannah figure this out. You've been listening to the good people with Erik and Hannah. I'm Erik.
I'm Hannah.
We'll let Hannah figure this out. We'll be back shortly. And we are back. It's the good people with Erik and Hannah. So we've been talking about this whole Science of Happiness course that we're taking.
Yes.
So to wind down your story here, before we'll get into me, because I'm starting the course. So you learn to kind of embrace the stuff that does make you happy and turn your life, and you use that to enrich your life. And now I want to hear the happiness scores now. Like I want to hear your PERMA scores now. So let's get those.
Let me scroll down to it. My PERMA score right now is, and the thing is with the test too, like when you take this course, they'll have you take it after like the X amount of weeks, but
interesting.
So I'll give you my original score when I first took it to now.
Okay.
How's it? So that way we can see the difference.
The difference.
My first so my first one was a 4. Positive emotions was a 4. It is now at an 8.3.
Wow.
Engagement was at a 7. My engagement's at an 8.3. My relationships were at 6.7. My relationships now are at a 10. My meaning was a 2. It is now a 9.3. My accomplishment was a 2. It is now at a 7. My health was 1. And it is now a 4.3. My negative emotions were a 7.3. it is now a 4.6. So I think that means that I was experiencing more negative emotions than now. My loneliness was a 7. My loneliness now is a 0. My So I'm not lonely. I don't feel lonely anymore.
Aw.
So, and then my overall well-being was a 4.31. My overall well-being now is an 8.3 or 8.63.
Very, very interesting. So this course, like, I know it's not just the course, but like the aspects you took in your life to flip things around. So let's go back to the meaning one, because that was your lowest.
Yeah.
And now it's like what? It's an 8.
It's one of my high. It's at one of my highest. It's at 9.3.
9.3.
So it went from a 2 to a 9.3.
That jump, that's the biggest jump. So I'm curious about this. So your light meaning now, and I know you have contributing factors to this, because now you know you have your relationship with your husband, and you're a wife and all this stuff, and you have a family purpose now, and also on top of that, all the other things you've done with your churches. So what other things changed like your purpose of meaning? Like what flipped you around? You'd be like, I know what my calling is now, and I know what I need to do.
I mean, this is gonna sound cheesy and it's gonna sound very corny, but I literally surrendered everything in my life and just let God be like that author of my story. Like I don't want, because if I'm a woman of faith and I believe that God knows what's better for me than what I do, I will surrender it and let Him take control of it. And so that's literally how I live my life. Like even though I work a job, the same job I worked before, even though I work it, there is this part of me that I know that this is just a season. There's like this thing in like the Christian world, and like I kind of make fun of it. We call things seasons, like, and I think it's a very true statement. And nothing's permanent in our life. Like this job, I will not always work, but I'm here for a season, and I know that one day God will call me to another season of my life where I'm somewhere else, and I just have to trust that, right? So that's literally the meaning. I don't need to be a Twitch streamer. I don't need to be a teacher or a podcaster or a this. Like, I don't need to like tie any kind of career identity or meaning for my life to myself, because I trust what's going to happen next.
I think it's also part of it too, is like those are aspects that make up who you are, but they're not, or they make up aspects of like, you know, you as a person, but they are not who you are as a person.
Yeah. Like I am not, I enjoy streaming, like, right. And like, I would still say I do it for fun, but I am not Hannah K, like Twitch streamer. Like that's not my like identity, like, you know, and I just put my identity solely in my faith, and then I just see what comes.
So can I play devil's advocate for a little bit here?
Sure.
So your faith has led you down this road where you believe like, okay, this is where my faith is leading me. This is what I'm going to roll with. What about the situations to where the faith leads you something that maybe you're not wanting to do this anymore, or like you don't think you should be doing this? Then where does that come in? Because I feel like that kind of counteracts your argument, where it's like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, you know, but like, where's the thing where you're kind of like, you know what, maybe I need to take some control of this and realize like maybe this isn't for me, or I need to make the changes. That's where I'm getting at, is like, okay, well, let's determine like, okay, maybe, you know, let's be honest with you. Maybe God did you dirty and now you're not supposed to be doing this, you know, like, what do you do then?
So I think, and it's a completely valid question. I don't know how to explain this other than any other way to say that like life is not always going to be peachy and perfect.
Very accurate.
Our life, we're going to face hardship. We're going to have difficult moments. We're going to have jobs that we hate. We're going to have friendships that don't work out. That it's the natural course of life that it's going to take, right? And so, you know, my faith in God doesn't exclude me from difficult moments or hard moments, but there's the promise of I don't do it alone. Do you know what I mean?
Right. We're going to get through this together.
I get through this because God gives me the strength to get through this. It's not something, because there are things you think, like there are days where I'm like, I can't stand this job, I'm ready to go. Right. You know what I mean? But there's this belief that I'm going to be used in like every season that I'm in. For example, if I wasn't working at the job that I'm working at now, I wouldn't have met the woman that would have become my maid of honor at my wedding, right?
Very
And so,
true.
like, despite the job being difficult, there are gonna be some things that God's gonna use that I gain from it or learn from it. I didn't want to be the leader of my like where I work. I'm essentially like the team leader. I didn't want to do that. I don't want it
Hmm.
because for me, that's just added responsibility. But if God's putting me in the season where you are to lead this team, I see it as okay, you're showing me something despite me not wanting to do it. You're showing me how to lead, showing me, and then it falls into like starting like the women's group, right? Like that fell into my plate also. And so I just see like the whole, you know, I guess going back to your question, which was, the devil's advocate of like, could you repeat it again? Because I went on a tangent there.
Basically,
I
in
mean,
layman's terms, my question
yeah,
is, you know, God, you did me dirty. I think you're
yeah.
wrong. When do you
Mm,
decide that that's the case and you take responsibility for like yourself and your decisions and not necessarily like your faith saying, hey, this is your path. Like, where do you click and go like, this doesn't seem right? Because I guess let me give you some
yeah,
context to my question.
yeah.
Because I'm
Mhm,
kind of one of those believers. I actually tend to be a believer is like our life paths are laid out.
mhm,
Like what we're supposed to do happens for a reason, and
mhm.
and whether or not that's a power that almighty power, or that's just the way things are, like that's up for debate. I don't have the answer to that, but I do believe that our stuff
Mhm.
is laid out in a way, shape, or form where our lives are intended to go a certain way. But
Mhm.
what I do believe on top of that is that just like everything in with science, there's always a variable.
Mhm.
And in terms of life, I'm the variable. I can flip the script. I can be like, I'm going to do this instead, you know.
Mhm.
So that's, how I see it, where it's kind of like, okay, again, in basic things, it's like, this isn't working out for me. What can I do different?
Mhm.
You know, it's taking the reins back because by your definition, you believe that, this is what the Lord has laid out for me. And if
Yes.
it gets tough and it gets, going gets tough and stuff gets rough,
Mhm.
he will help me work through it.
He will help me work. And okay, so I can actually answer this. It doesn't necessarily mean like I'm to stay there, right?
Right.
Um, this is gonna sound very spiritual, and I understand if people don't get it, and it's okay.
You
But
see
this is
where
the
I'm
best way I
coming
can
from with this
describe.
question,
I
though.
see where you're coming from because, like, let's say I'm at a job where like my boss is like abusing me, right? Am
Yeah.
I supposed to sit there and take it, right? Um, no, I'm not supposed to,
Right.
right? But it's more so in prayer or in fasting or in just being in relationship with God that like again, this sounds like corny. I get it. It's letting him lead me to like the next step. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's like the best way I could say it is that like if I was in a situation that was truly not based off me just being grumbling about my
Right.
job, but if there was like a genuine if there was abuse or something like that or like something was done wrong,
You
I
take
could
the
get up and
reins
walk.
and you
I
take.
take the reins and I know and like, I'll feel it. The Holy Spirit will lead me to a new situation and God will provide with a different situation. But um it doesn't mean I have to sit there and take it, right?
So those
I
that are
think
listening right now, you can see
yeah.
how like Hannah and mine's ideologies are different. Where it's like I'm kind of
Mhm,
like I'm the one in control. Like
yeah.
I will flip the script if I feel I need to, and I
Mhm,
take responsibility for myself. I'm one of those people, like I don't necessarily look for guidance. In a
mhm,
sense, it's like, hey, what do I do, people? Like, help me figure this out. It's kind of one of the things like I will go seek out answers for myself and be like, you know what, this kind of makes
mhm,
sense. Maybe I'll give this a try, or I'll do
right.
this. That's like how
Mhm.
I work. You know,
Something that someone had brought up to me, and I fully agree with this point in my life, is I was a terrible master of my own life. Meaning that anytime I tried to take control of anything, whether it was my job or my relationships, based off my own self, my own insecurities, my own shortcomings, my own weaknesses, I you know, I wasn't cutting it. I was falling into situations where I was getting hurt or where I was, just feeling broken down and everything. And so for me, like complete surrender of my life to give it to someone that loves me more than anything else, like it it was not even a question in my mind, because like I was a terrible master in my own life. I would think that something would make me happy. I would think that doing something was going to bring ultimate joy in my life, but anything in this world, it's going to crumble. It's going to have, like I love my husband, for example, right? I love Dustin more than anything. If we're going to be married for a long, long time, we're going to have very difficult moments, right?
Right.
And so I can't always put 100% honest trust in our marriage, because life happens. And so that's why, like, when you came to our wedding and our pastor was like, when you build your marriage on God, you have a firmer foundation, because God is the same as he was yesterday as he was
Right.
today. Like, so that's kind of like where it comes from. So I guess essentially for me, it's like I was tired of being a master in my life. I'm a little bit of a control freak, and it was stressing me out. I was getting anxious, like, coming up with these ideas, and like, and they weren't working out, and like I was just getting overwhelmed. And so for me, complete surrender, some people might view it as weakness. I can understand that. Some people might look at it as like, okay, so you're giving it all up to some big guy in the sky that doesn't
Well,
exist. Like,
let's do full disclosure here too,
yeah.
because it's not just the Lord that helped to guide you. You did also go seek professional, mental health, because you've always preached that too.
Yeah, and I've
Because
always
that's an important thing. Because like it's not just like you prayed up to the Lord and everything got fixed. No, it's fixed. No, you sought out professional. Because it's important. I feel like anybody that, because I did it too. We both did it. Anyone that is in a position where they don't feel like they have all the answers or everything should seek professional help also, and get that professional help that they need to help them figure things out as well. Like I said, It wasn't just you got on your knees, prayed to the Lord, and everything worked out. No, you took all these different avenues to help adjust your life.
I would say that was the catalyst for everything. Like, and I mean, I don't know. It sounds crazy. Like, I would say it was 100% that, but that's just how my faith is, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that God hasn't provided me a therapist. It doesn't mean that God does. I'm not one of those Christians that will sit here and say, don't go to the doctor. Don't go get mental health counseling. Don't take. Yeah, I'm not one of those people, because sometimes those things are required. Why? Because that's how life is, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've always believed that like God gave me the therapist that I had. Like, God gave me my husband, like, and so that's just I mean, it's, again, I've always said I'm always very uncomfortable talking about this. So I was like,
Well, you're in a safe space now. No one, no one's
I
judging
know,
you.
but like, I know, but it's I think it's because like I start to get my head. I'm just like, we're gonna think I'm crazy, but it's okay. You can think I'm crazy. It's fine. Like,
There's nothing
but this
crazy
is
about you. You're actually a very mild Christian compared to some of the other ones like we do. Because there's Christians out there that will just straight up tell you that, psychologists are the devil.
no,
Like
and I don't believe that in a second.
the Lord will, protect you and fix your chemical imbalances in your brain. I'm like, that's probably not going to happen.
No, I believe that there are some strongholds in life that can be absolutely taken care of, but I absolutely believe that like God he gives us our doctors, he gives us science, he
Right.
gives us medicine, he gives us all of that, and so
He puts
I mean,
your belief is that he puts the pieces in place to help you, play the game of life.
Yeah.
Whereas me, I'm kind of like, well, I put the pieces where I want them.
I would say probably one of the best people to talk about this, so would most likely be Dustin.
Yeah.
And if you're ever curious, just because I've always been a Christian, but it wasn't until like
See, Dustin's
2008.
very interesting to talk to about this kind of stuff, because he's like, I don't want, it's a stupid term, but he's like he's reborn or whatever, like reborn Christian kind of deal,
Yeah.
you know,
We're born. Yeah. The thing
born
is, Dustin and I
again.
are both born again Christians. And
Right.
like, I get it. When people hear that term, they're like, oh gosh, you're Westboro Baptist. Like, no, like
no, you just sought a religious faith and it's fine. My girlfriend's like
Yeah.
that. Like my girlfriend is
Yeah.
still religious, She's
Is
still
Pal Catholic?
She's Catholic. We're Hispanics.
Okay.
We come from
Okay.
the other side of the.
It was interesting because I was telling Dustin, because like I don't think you ever told me that Pal was Christian.
What's funny too is because our story is even crazier. We got divine intervention, and
Because
like
I remember I told Dustin, I said, there's something about Pal that I feel it, like I see it in her spirit, like, I told Dustin, I said,
she's religious. She grew up
yeah,
religious and Catholic and all that kind of stuff. Like I said,
right. But
our
we
story's
never
even
talked
wilder.
about like that.
Yeah, no, our
Yeah.
story's even wilder. You know, we got divine intervention and like all
Well,
kinds of
I
stuff.
gotta hear it. But I mean, if you ever want to talk to Dustin about it, because Dustin is someone that was not a Christian at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say, if you're really curious, you could talk to me, but like, listen, I've been a Christian I was Catholic, but then I left the Catholic church, but I was still a Christian, right? Became more devoted in 2018. But he's someone that like, no, I don't know it, to then being like, this all makes sense to me. And then boom, like it wasn't anything that I did. I didn't influence him at all.
I think about this a lot. I was like, if I had to pick a religion, I feel like I'd be more like Buddhist because everything's like very like Zen and self. And
that's what a lot of people tell me. They say if they could pick something, they'd pick Buddhism.
It's more very Zen and very self, like, reflective and stuff like that. And I feel like that's more my, my speed. Your health thing, it bumped up a little, but it still sounds like that's one of those happiness factors you need to work on.
I think more so like that was a weird one to answer, the health category, because like I'm the heaviest that I've ever been. But I don't necessarily like it's almost like my self-esteem got better.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know why. Like, because like I was telling Dustin, I'm like, I really do need to like look at losing weight. Like now's the time to kind of focus in on it. But I'm in this place now where I'm okay with slower weight loss, just taking my time with it, not, doing anything crazy.
Well,
like just
you're
slow,
also married and you have a man that loves you for who you are, and you're not
he ain't going anywhere.
You're not juggling those
right.
those things about like, is my
like
appearance,
the social pressure that comes
right?
with
You're not
it.
juggling all that stuff like of like having a fun, like you're married, you're happily married, and you have a man that loves you and you love him back and all that kind of stuff, and like your mental zen there is in such a good place with that like you're not stressing over the physical aspects of like, I need to get thin and healthy and skinny so I can find a man to love me and blah blah blah. Like you're not in that boat,
Right. The thing I will say though, and they kind of brushed up on this with the course, is when I start to feel really bad about myself is mostly when I run into old pictures of myself.
That's me.
And so like I'll see pictures of like when I was super thin and I'd be like, I wish I looked but in the course they talk about comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wasn't thinking about it at first. Like, I thought I looked pretty good today. But then I see a picture from when I was 22 and like my body was like in shape and like, I was thinner at the waist and like I could wear like these bikinis and like
let's be real too. You were also 22.
I was 20. I know. I'm like, I'm not this cute little 22-year-old that's going around like I'm, 30 and little over a month now.
I don't know if I told you this story, but before I start getting into my stuff, I don't know if I told you this, but I asked a couple of these girls at work. I was in a different office doing work there, and I asked a couple of girls, I'm like, how old do I look? And then they both came back late 30s, and I was like, oh, it's over. Because like a year pre-pandemic, when I was still in the office, I used to get 27, 28, like just before 30. And I'm like, wow, that's like a big difference.
And you know what the thing I've noticed too is I feel like when you are heavier, you appear younger.
Oh, well, because that's one of my answers is because, girl, that's a natural collagen. Like people are paying to shove that shit in their face, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like me, it was all natural and I just had fat, rosy cheeks. And then when I lost the weight, now I'm starting to see the wrinkles here. But the one that really does me in, and I noticed this the other day, because if those that don't know on my socials or whatever, I put up a new profile picture and all that stuff and my Twitter and everything. But, that's the wrong thing. These guys are starting to get gray. That whole like chunk you get like right there, like it's starting to be prominently visible.
That's interesting because Dustin has gray. Like I know it's genetic. A lot of it's genetic. Like if your parents start graying early.
Yeah, you'll most likely gray early.
No, I don't know because my dad, he's blonde. So I mean, like he doesn't look like he's graying all that much. Like mostly if you see it in like his facial hair, but my mom, she grays, but she's 57.
So like this used to be black. Like it was jet, like dark black, and now it's lightened up over the years, and now it's getting gray. Like I have gray chunks like right here. You can't see it here, but when you're like in the sunlight, it's more prominent. You can see the gray chunks, especially in an office where the lighting's fluorescent. You can see these gray chunks, and that's what's starting to show to the age. Not only that, on top of that, like when I lost all the weight, like this covers it really, really well. But I have that sag.
That's that like the loose skin.
That loose sag right there, and I look like my grandpa. And I'm like, I'm gonna keep this here for as long as I'm allowed to have it. I tried to get it fuller during the pandemic, but it doesn't happen. But no, that's things like we just have to accept about life too, where it's like, okay, I'm not 22 anymore, just like yourself. Like your body metabolizes different, you know. You're gonna have to work harder to get that toned shape and all that kind of stuff, you know. And it's like kind of you have to accept it and be like, okay, I'm gonna do the best I can, and I'm gonna get with what, you know, I'm gonna work with what I'm given. Again, you know, what the Lord gives you. If you're looking at your approach, like work what the Lord gives you, but you can get back there. So it sounds like you're kind of working on it, but then it's also you're getting to that mental place where it's like, I'm okay. I'll get there when I get there. You know,
it's more so now I'm beginning to view it as a health thing, like in the sense of I don't want to have heart issues when I get older, because you know I don't want to have heart failure, which is in my family. And now that I'm realizing that it is, I'm like, I really want to live a long life for my kids when I have them.
Next year,
I want to be around. No, not this year. I'm in a 1-bedroom apartment, sir. Like
it's about to be a studio apartment once you have that kid, and there's a bayonet or whatever they call it in there, a bassinet in there.
A bayonet,
bassinet, whatever's in there. You know. We were talking about that too, me and Pal. It was like, if it happens, I told that because Pal's like always looks at that stuff they have at like children's places, and the kid's in a cute little like button-up shirt with overalls and all that stuff. I'm like, you know, as soon as I have to take the kid to daycare, I'm switching that stuff out, and it's just gonna be a t-shirt and like little Converse and stuff like that. You know, like I'm not getting my kid beat up under the swing. You know, like nope, but.
I can see you being like a sneaker dad, like just buying a bunch of really nice shoes for your kid.
I told Pal, I was like, I will work all the overtime in the world, but my kid will have a small rack of Vans and Converse and Adidas just sitting on his little shelf. You know, like I will work all the overtime in the world if I have to. Because I told her, I was like, I don't care what happens. I will work as hard as I have to, but my kid will not have a Payless. You know, my kid will not have Payless shoes because I had that growing up and it wasn't fun. It's no fun.
No, and they're not comfortable. Although Payless is gone now, so
is it completely gone?
I think it went bankrupt.
Oh wow. Sheesh.
Which was sucky for me because sometimes like I'm not a girl that like has a bunch of shoes. Like I literally rotate like 4 shoes.
I figured they worked great for like women that need shoes that don't like need them on regular occasions, like high heels for dresses and stuff like that. I figured that worked great, you know?
Yeah. But I'm not someone that's gonna go out and buy Gucci heels, like, you know. Forget that. Can't even afford that.
Can't afford that. I've been looking at Rolexes for some reason. Like I've been watching. I got into watch TikTok. Like
really, watch talk.
Watch talk. Yeah, like where these guys like literally like they repair old like vintage Rolexes and stuff like that, and it's so zen and so beautiful. Like people look at it like
ASMR.
People like look at it and like it's just a watch, but like all the little gears and the mechanics and everything like that make that piece work. Like you know why it's $5,000, you know, $10,000. Oh yeah,
that's how Dustin is. He loves watches.
Engineering. Someday, I will blow stupid money on one someday. Just
when the Joe Rogan money comes in.
I thought about this though, where it's like I would love to have something like that to like pass on to my children. You know, someday, like a son or, you know, be a daughter or whatever if they want it. But like if I had children, I could pass something down like that. Like will last forever. You know, a Rolex will last forever if you take care of it. So it's like always one of those things. That's one of those companies that ads even where it's like you never own it. It's just you're borrowing it because the intention is you buy it and then you give it to, you know, someone down the line. But
it's like it's an investment in a way.
Would you like to hear about my stuff? Would you like to hear about me?
I had some questions for you.
All right. So I am starting the course. This is a very long episode today, but we've also been gone a long time. Yeah. So I have started taking the course. So
what week are you on?
I'm in the middle of week 2. So I will kind of go over some of the stuff. So the most important part of this discussion here, and we're going to come back to this in about 6 weeks when I finish the course, and we'll do the same thing we're doing here where we'll talk about me. So I will give you my PERMA results. We've been talking about this. These are the components that are supposed to, make up like our well-being.
Right.
Positive emotions, I got a 5.3.
Okay.
Engagements, I have an 8.3, if you want to take notes on these. My relationships is a 7. My meaning is a 5. My accomplishments are a 5.6. My health is a 7. My negative emotions are a 7.
Okay.
And my loneliness is a 4. My overall well-being is a 6.3. So now that you have those numbers there and you've written them down, feel free to ask whatever questions you see fit, and I'll ask them.
Can you give me because I didn't write the first 4 down because I was trying to get my pen to work.
Okay. Positive emotion is a 5.3. Engagement's an 8.3. Relationships is a 7. And my meaning is a 5.3.
And all right, and your lowest was
loneliness is the lowest. That's a 4.
4. Okay. All right. Do these scores surprise you?
No.
Is there anyone that does surprise you?
My engagement actually surprises me because I'm kind of a closed off like person. Like I said, I've said earlier, I like one of those ones that likes working at home. I like being by myself in the office. And
that surprised me too. When you said 8.3, I was like, that's actually surprising for me. Just because I see you more as like, okay, I'm going to go to work. I feel that you engage with people. You engage with people on the podcast, but I get the sense that you kind of just finish that and then you go do your own thing.
Right. And I kind of just, spend the time with my family and my girlfriend or whatever. My engagement one being so high, I guess when I do engage at work, I'm very engaging. I do, and I'll explain this a little bit when we talk about the strengths thing and that exercise. But like my engagements it's gotten better. It used to be lower.
Okay.
I'll talk about this in a minute. So most of this doesn't surprise me. My positive emotion, I'm neutral. 5 is basically neutral. Like I'm not happy nor am I sad, at least now. Yeah. Now, if you talked to me 2 years ago, I was probably incredibly sad. That would probably be a higher number.
Yeah.
A much higher number.
And I get that sense too, from knowing you back then to knowing you now.
That would have been an incredibly higher number. Or lower number, I'm sorry. Yeah. That would be an incredibly lower number. Relationships is a 7. That probably would have been about in the middle. But my 7, I think my relationship as a 7 is definitely bumped up because now I have a significant other and a steady relationship.
And she's wonderful.
And she's wonderful, and she's very grounding and very, like, she's a yin to my yang. And we see it all the time when I drive. Like, I get mad at people for stupid stuff on the road, just like you. You're like, what the hell are you doing? And she's like, babe, just chill. They're not doing anything. I'm like, they're in my way. Like that. They're in my way. We always get in this argument about pedestrians. Like, I'm like, do pedestrians really have the right of way?
That's how I feel. Or people on bicycles, like, why are you on the road? Like, what's wrong with the sidewalk? Sorry.
Oh, like, by all means, bicycles should be on the road, but they should be to the farthest right of the road as possible.
Yeah, that's more so what I mean.
Because, with the exception of having to make the turn. Like, you get in the left turn lane on the bicycle, and then you left turn and get to the farthest side of the road. Okay, I understand. But to be in the middle of the road, just lily-dallying with your boombox speaker going off, blasting while you're chilling, like, no, you need to move over. Unless
you guys have a moped problem where you get the ones that can't go over like 35 miles per hour and they're...
No, but we have the stupid scooters, the Bird and the...
Yeah, I guess those that don't go over like 45 or something like that.
Yeah, I can walk faster, but...
I know,
Yeah, no, but like my relationship, my girlfriend's very grounding. She supports me and she helps me boost, she boosts me up in my spirits, and she puts the positive in where I'm thinking negative. Like she's the glass half full. Meaning this kind of makes sense because I'm at the stage of my life now where it's like, I don't really know what I'm doing or if I'm doing it right. Like, I'm kind of like in the middle. I was like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Should I be doing something else? Like, I'm figuring it out. That makes sense. Right. Health was an obvious one to me because like physically I've just gotten in much, much better health. Like that would have been a 2, just like you 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago, that would have been a 2.
Right.
I would have just been complete miserable ball of fat, like Jabba the Hutt. And like it would have not been pretty, you know. Negative emotion, this actually doesn't surprise me really. I think negatively a lot.
Do you think negatively, or are you just more of a pessimist? Like,
I'm
you know what I
probably
mean?
more of a pessimist.
Like you're more glass half empty as opposed to glass half full.
Right. And I think that's the logical person in me where I'm like, hey, the odds are against us in this thing, you know, like maybe
yeah.
we need to rethink the game strategy here. Like that. So I guess that's an interesting question. It's not necessarily negative. Maybe it's just more pessimistic. Like,
Yeah.
eh.
So that's something to consider, because like I don't necessarily see you as negative. Like I see negative as like, oh, woe is me, like the sun is not shining, like, you
That
know,
used to be
I
me. That used
right.
to be me.
I
Now
think
it's like different.
that's to me that's very different than like glass half empty.
Yeah.
Like, because you can be realistic and have good points with being glass half empty.
Right.
You know,
It's like,
so like I don't
again,
know.
it's the number. I'm like, the numbers are against, like the odds are against us here, but we'll go, you know, like, you know,
Let's see
uh,
what's the night.
loneliness was a 4. Loneliness, that would have been significantly higher, you know, 3-4 years ago. That would have been significantly higher. I felt very, very, very alone.
Although wait, I think oh yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that would
like
have
the numbers
been,
confused.
way, way higher.
And what is your, like, as far as your overall being? Do you agree with overall well-being score?
I think it's in the ballpark. I think it
Okay.
feels right. Like, not like you said, like, yes, does any of this really surprise you? My engagement one does surprise me. But like
Mhm.
the rest of it, it's all pretty on point with like how I think I am as a person. So this number, like this test here isn't really like new news to me. You
Right.
know, I kind of had an idea what I was going to. By overall being, it could be better, you know, but it's not where I thought. Had this been like a couple few years ago, this probably would have been like more like a 3 or a 4. It would have been incredibly low.
Now, what about your authentic happiness score? The 1 through 5. What was
This
that?
one, again, not too surprising. This came in as a 2.25. So this is right in the middle.
Okay.
Like right in the middle between 1 and 5. Like it's right in the middle. I mean, I'm not sad, but I'm not completely happy. Because I think, and to answer the
Yeah.
question, because I'm probably going to get, it's like, well, what would make you, there's a lot of things I want to accomplish now that I need to think about. Like, I want to own a home. You know, I want to think about starting a family if I'm going to do it. You know, like I need to start figuring out those facets of life. You know,
Now, the one I'm just so curious about this with you. The strength. Did
the
you take that
strengths.
yet?
Yes, I took the strengths. This
Okay,
is the
so
one
I'm
I'm going
gonna
to probably
write.
talk about the most here. So when you're
Yeah,
ready for it, let me go ahead.
I'm ready. I'm gonna write them down. I'm
Uh,
writing you in pink. Everything else is me on my iPad, but you're
got you.
pink.
Okay, so my strengths here.
Mhm.
Let's see. So signature strings, your top strings. Okay. Okay. So my first one, humor. That was my number 1 strength.
You were gonna have humor on there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 2 was my judgment. Number 3 is my appreciation of, oh, I'm sorry. My number 3 is perspective, wisdom.
Okay.
And then number 4 is my appreciation of beauty and excellence, transcendence. And then number 5 is my social intelligence, my humanity.
So that's interesting. We share 3 of those.
We share 3 of them. But I think the 3 mine are on a higher scale, I think.
Wait,
Or
hold
they're
on. What was the last one again?
the last one was social intelligence, my humanity.
Okay. So we share humor, social intelligence, perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, appreciation for beauty and excellence used to be one of my top ones when I first took the test. It's not one of the top ones anymore. Well, it's like
That's
top
weird though.
10.
Well, it's not necessarily
Not
weird because the other aspects of your life kind of change.
right.
And that's the amazing thing is people, as we change as people, we seem to
Mhm.
forget that in a social media world where it's like something we said 10 years ago still applies now. It's like, no, we change as people, you know. So I'll field some of, you know, the questions you have here. So what do we got as far as question wise in terms of this?
So, any of those in particular surprise you? Like,
Humor was obvious.
Yeah.
Let me go back to the thing here.
I can tell you, judgment and perspective do not surprise me. Social intelligence, it's not so much that it surprises me about you, but I think in the past, I would have viewed you as blunt for having a lack of social awareness. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like my assumption was that you lacked it, which is why you were blunt, and I kind
Which
of
is
thought you
funny
were a
too. The
jerk.
key word of it is humanity. Like I was
Yeah.
not very humanitarian like back then. Like, you know,
Right.
like I would be like,
So
wake your ass up and figure it out, you know, like that kind of thing. Like, no, but
Yeah.
which is funny too, because like the humanity thing actually does kind of surprise me. I'm still very like blunt. I just think I'm nicer about how blunt I am. I still think I'm very blunt. Appreciation of beauty and intelligence. That one's actually new to me. I think I'm starting to learn how to do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I probably wouldn't have picked that one for you.
Right.
Like at the top.
So judgment, I mean, that one's kind of a given. My first two, I think, were kind of obvious and given. But then again, judgment doesn't necessarily apply to all good judgments. I've made a lot of bad decisions in life. Like,
Right.
you know,
Could have made a lot of bad calls.
you know, yeah, I made a lot of bad calls. One of them being, you could stick cocaine in that little box that Johhny Depp had. Would it be a good box to stick it in and travel with? No. But you can do it. But, and I'm be real with you. That's what that box is for. Let's not kid ourselves.
See, I wouldn't know.
That's
like,
what
that's what
that. Why else would you have a tiny little box and have it literally engraved on the top that says "Property of JD"? Like that.
I don't know. Like I'd be like, "What's my mint tin or something?"
You could probably You probably fit like what, 3 or 4 rings, 5 rings in the thing, maybe. But it's not a jewelry box by any means.
Oh, see, listen, I would have been like, put my Altoids in there, but like,
that's a nice Altoid box. You know. But okay.
Okay, so you take it. You're on week 2.
Hit me with some questions about this rewirement thing, because I want to know what like questions you would possibly have about this.
Like rewiring, like
or my strengths. Like, give me some questions about my strengths.
Do you find that you use a lot of these, like in your like? Okay, let's say for example, like one of the things the class talks about is like when it comes to a job, like it doesn't necessarily matter what kind of job that you have, but your job appreciation and your happiness with your job, you're more satisfied if you are using these strengths
it's
that you have.
interesting you bring that up, because this is part of what the course, like I'm actually trying to utilize the course and make the changes like the course intends.
Right.
So like I'll kind of go like humor is a given. I use humor in the office all the time.
Right.
Like, and I've started to use it more in like a more of like a common sense. Like we do this thing at work now where we have technical orientations on top of their normal orientations. I get assigned technical orientations all the time. These are new hires that they learn how to start their equipment, log in, that kind of stuff, right? And first thing I tell them, I'm like, welcome to the company. This is your technical orientation. And then I follow up right after. It's like, unfortunately, I'm the one you have to start your day with. Oh, how cute. So like, I'm the one that like, I tell them, unfortunately, I'm the one you have to start your day with today. And then they get a chuckle out of it. And then they, we start the orientation. I break the ice. So I'm like starting to use it like in those kind of ways, right? I guess I use humor all the time, but sometimes it was blunt humor. Like I'll call up, like people like give me this thing and I'll call them and I'll be like, what the hell's the problem? And then they'll be like, the people that know me will laugh, but someone will be like, I don't know what's broken. Like that kind of. So I've learned to not do that like that way anymore. I guess be wittier about it is, I guess, what I'm getting at. So like I'm starting to utilize humor in a more witty sense at work.
Right.
Okay. And I'm starting to use it more in a witty sense in life too. Like I pulled some joke last night because we saw some couple had a cute little sippy bottle and it had like Spider-Gwen and Miles Morales and all that stuff. It was really adorable. And I was like, pal, let's get that for the kid for the thing. She's like, the kid's not even born yet. And I'm like, dude, he's going to grow into it in like 6 weeks. So like, And then I got the chuckle out of the couple that had the thing, you know, like those little
Yeah.
instances like that where I use it like to like enrich my life, get a chuckle out of something, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily want to be in a Target anymore looking at baby stuff. So like,
Right. You got to make it fun for
right.
yourself.
Judgment. I try to make better judgment now. Like, I guess I could say.
I think you make better judgments now than when I first met you.
I had no sense of judgment before. Like, it was literally just like, go and see what happens, you know, like in a bad sense where it's like, I'm going to try that and let's see what happens.
I would think you were probably riskier. You're probably.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say you were probably. I think you give more grace and forgiveness now, which helps your judgment more so than in the past.
Yeah.
Like I feel like you met the person that could have looked at someone and been like, that person's a dumbass. Like, but now you've been like, well, I can understand that.
Oh,
like,
sorry.
you know,
You broke up during that whole thing. Go again.
Oh, I said in the past, I could have seen you as being someone that's like, that person's just a dumbass. Whereas now I could see you being like, I can understand why that person is that way, but they're still a dumbass.
Yeah. Right.
I think you have a little bit more forgiveness now. Like,
and I said some bad things about people. Like I've said some mean things, right? Like I remember one of them, one of those, I forgot what it was. One of those Disney stars or something like got caught like drug abuse or something. They got sent to jail or something. I forgot what it was. One of those big mega stars, right, had a drug problem. They got caught and it showed up on the news or whatever. I was like, well, that's what they get for being an addict or something along those lines. Like that's what I said, right? Whereas like, you know, now I like realize I'm like, you know what, like, and part of it too is because like I had my own addiction problems. Someone in the chat mentioned Drake Bell. I don't think it was that person. It was a female.
No, Drake's not.
It was a female, but like I like because I made those bad decisions myself, and it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, well, hey, welcome to the club, you know, like those kind of things, like, and then like it's a negative thing. Whereas like now I'm like understanding. It's like, look, I know why people get into those things. Like I know why people get into drug problems and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest with you, like, you know, the majority of our audience that listens to this stuff, they're in that age range. But anyone that's super young, that's not experienced this stuff, life gets hard. You know, when you have to start dealing with things like mortgages and health insurance and jobs and living and rent and, you know, stuff like that to stay afloat and live and, you know, deal with the fastest life. I totally understand why people get into alcoholism, drug abuse and all that kind of stuff, because life gets hard. And it's not just that stuff, death in the family, things like that. Life, like it gets hard.
Yeah.
And like, I understand some people don't take it very well and then they fall into these problems, you know, and especially if you're famous, like if you're famous and you have all these other facets of life, you know, like paparazzi and all that kind of stuff. Like I understand why there's an immense amount of loneliness in someone that's celebrity.
Right. And also too, the insane amount of pressure too. Hollywood's rampant with it.
Yeah.
It's just because to buy drugs, what do you have to have? Money.
Yeah. Money and a dealer.
Famous.
Money and a dealer you can trust. That's it. And
so
your problems will disappear for a short period of time, you know?
For real. And then they get stuck in the loop of it.
Yeah.
So
you know, it's all numbing. So right. I get it. Judgment. I get what you're saying. Like you said, but like I said before, like, oh, that person's a dumbass, you know?
That would have been Eric like 5 years ago. Just like,
what a dumbass, you know? Like, but like, you know, and like I said about that person, I was like, well, that's, you know, that's what happens when you become an addict. Welcome, you know, like that's basically what I was saying, where it's like, but that's obviously stuff like I was dealing with myself, where I'm like, yeah, I know I got an issue, you know, like it's kind of like, again, it's like making humor out of the situation, you know, like, ha ha ha, you know, welcome, blah, 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 when, you know, we both know it's an issue.
Perspective.
Which one's perspective? What was the key, or what's the thing for that perspective? Oh, wisdom. I try better to educate now. Like I try to educate better, like not just at work. Like I'd be like, this is what we can do to avoid this situation now. You know, this is what we can do to do better, you know, like those kind of things. Like I try to do that a lot more now, and just in life in general. I've been doing it a lot with my girlfriend. I think she's getting sick of it, where I'm like, you need to do this because this will be better, you know. And again, it's hard, like, because you're getting information from all kinds of different ways, but I try to do better, and I try to, you know, excel more wisdom. I think too, as I'm getting older, like I'm trying to radiate more like life experience, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I think so.
I've been through a lot of stuff like growing up and through the years and all that kind of stuff, where it's just like, there's some, I guess there's stuff I can share.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciation of beauty and excellence. I'm using, this is one of those ones I'm trying to use more because I don't do this.
No, you know what's interesting? You mentioned the watch thing.
Yeah.
You were appreciating the beauty and excellence out of watching a simple TikTok where they're going through like the mechanisms and the
Yeah.
gears and they're rotating. A lot of people wouldn't sit. They'd be like, "It's a watch. Goodbye." You know,
Right.
you
What's the
sat
difference
there.
between this $5,000 watch and like $100 one I get at, you know, what's the store now?
Right.
Kohl's. Like, what do I get at Kohl's for $100? You know?
Exactly.
But like, I guess in terms of people, because my thing is people, my issues have been people over the past couple of years. I'm starting to try and do my best to radiate. Actually, G-Shocks are very good watches. I'm actually trying to, someone mentioned in the chat, G-Shocks. I'm trying to show people, like I'm trying to express what people's strengths are. So like we have a new hire in the office.
Mm-hmm.
And she's very, very green. This is a term we use in, you know, IT. Green meaning, and they probably use it in other terms of business. Or green meaning is like they have little knowledge of the environment that they're now working in. They have little experience.
Oh, okay.
They're very green. So I'll give some background. This person worked at Apple and they did customer support, like very tier 1 customer support. Like, you know, iPhone easy fixes and stuff like that, iPhone support. So like and basically Geek Squad type work, you know, break and fix, we call it. And then what I've done for the past 10 years is I've worked in an enterprise environment, in a business, like computing and using, computing in a network business environment, productivity, etc. She's very green to that. And when I was training her on stuff, I was training her on how to delegate, you know, tickets and requests to staff and all that kind of stuff, because that's a job we have in the department. Everyone does it once a week at least. So I was training her on how to do it. And when I was, you know, she was asked like, you know, how am I doing? Oh, did I freeze?
Oh yeah, you did.
Oh, I did freeze. Look at that beautiful face. It's because I switched windows. Let's go ahead and let's fix it. Look at that quick fix. Boom and boom. I wonder how long I was frozen for.
Hopefully. How long was Eric frozen for? 45 seconds.
Oh, okay. That's a little long, but it's okay. So anyway, so I'm talking to her and, you know, I was explaining, she's like, how am I doing? And all that kind of stuff. I'm like, you're doing great. And I said, I went to bat for you when I talked to my boss, because me and my boss talk very close about staff hiring and stuff like that. And I explained to her, I said, I told him, you know, yes, you're very green in this field of work, but I said, one of your biggest strengths you have, and not very many people in this business have, is that you have a very positive outlook in how you interact with individuals. Basically, she's very friendly. She's I call it a front-facing voice. Like when someone calls the customer support line or the help desk or whatever, and she's like, hey, this is so-and-so, how can I help you out? That's the kind of voice.
Yeah.
That's the voice people want to hear, you know, and they go like, because if they get that kind of voice, then they know they're going to be they're hopefully taken care of, you know, because she has a very sympathetic, you know, tone. Like, oh, I understand, you know, let me do what I can to help you. It's actually, it's beautiful the way she like handles individuals, even with her lack of knowledge.
Right.
She's very like supportive. She will make you like, she has the ability to make the person believe that they will get the help they need, even though she doesn't necessarily have the answer. And that's very refreshing. And I told her that's probably one of the best strengths I've seen anybody have in this business in a long, long time, because most of us do not have that. We're very like annoyed. Like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, okay, your password's the problem, dummy. You know, your password's the problem, dummy. You broke up on that one too, but.
Oh, that's weird.
No, it's because you were away from the mic.
Oh, I was?
Yeah.
Oh. No, I said, no, we want to like pass it off to somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
right.
We don't want to use it.
Yeah. So I get it. But I told her like, that's one of your strengths. And I even brought it up in the meeting. I actually brought this course up in our weekly like team meeting. Our bi-weekly team meeting, because the boss was like the boss, like department head. Yeah. he was like, hey, we're going to go through this thing now, because he's trying to do the same thing. He's get a positive outlook from the team. And he was like, hey, what is this? Some of the stuff you've learned this week that doesn't necessarily have to be related to work, and it could just be life in general. What have you learned, or something new you're trying this week? And I said, hey, I'm taking this course and I'm learning this stuff. And I gave the example of that I just gave you about this individual we just hired. And I don't know the exact line of chain or what happened, but I'm guessing she went and, showed appreciation to my boss or whatever. And he called me when he was driving home. He said, hey, that was a good thing. Like, thank you for sharing all that, So like, that's the kind of stuff now where I'm trying to, and it does bring a shot of serotonin, like knowing you did something good, and people can get something out of it. And I was like, and it's no surprise to my bosses, I had mental health problems too. Like, it's like, hey, I'm working through this stuff and you guys know, and I've been fully honest with it. And like, I'm trying to get the help, and they've been very supportive of me too, like in terms of working with me and all that kind of stuff,
I'm glad.
Like,
and not a lot of people like,
yeah, they'll be like, yeah, we're not going to talk. There's a TikTok about that where like, we care about your mental health and da da da. And she's like, well, that's glad because I'm having a problem. And she's like, not right now, like that kind of thing. Which is more accurate than you would, like think to believe. But no, I'm trying this kind of stuff. Like, I'm trying to take these lessons from the course, and I'm trying to actually improve my outlook. I'm going to be interested to see what my scores are in a week or in 6 weeks when this course progresses.
So I think it's like a 10-week course. Yeah, it's 10 weeks.
Yeah. And then, what do we have? And then, like we talked about humanity, like I didn't have much of it at all. I'm working on it,
But, it'll be interesting to see. Maybe we can look at taking this again in like X amount of years.
And see what happens.
Right. My strengths pretty much stayed the same in,
Yeah, a couple years kind of like fall off, or the order changed. So
yeah, the order changed.
Yeah,
spirituality shot up at the very top. So
yes, I think I'm trying to become more Zen. Like
out of all the categories that you're most like that it talks about money, love, work, it talks about physical health too. Like, what are you the most interested in, like, learning about? Are you interested in learning about probably all of them, but like, are you curious about what it has to say about money more so, or relationships, or what's the one thing that you're kind of just like, you really want to hear what they have to say?
It did not land in my strengths itself, but there's one listed here. One of them is humility.
Oh no, I mean as like the course in total.
Oh,
like
the
I'm
course
talking
in
about
total.
like,
Okay.
yeah. So like for me, I was curious about money, and I was curious about like love and relationships, like because she goes through like every course and she talks about, this is what the science actually says about being in a romantic relationship. This is what it says about.
So I'll be honest and full disclosure here, because I have the answer to this. I think one of my biggest weaknesses, at least, part of it was, late, my 20s up into my early 30s and until I started changing things around. My biggest, I think, issue with myself is like love and relationships, because I was not very embracing of those, if that makes sense.
No, knowing how you were,
yeah,
that makes sense to me, that you felt that
yeah.
way. Like,
I was very closed off. I did not let people into my life that, they would be in my life, but they would not know the details of what I was actually truly going through. And I think the relationship now that I'm in now is like one of the first instances where I actually like started to open up about my mental health.
Would you say, this might be too personal of a question, but would you say that you were in the past more of like a quick hookup kind of guy, just because like you like, were you that type of guy, just like, I just want the feeling of intimacy, but I don't necessarily want to go too intimate? Like, or were you just someone that was just like, I don't want relationships at all? Like,
I think I was more afraid of relationships, in terms of like, not necessarily I didn't want them, but I think I was more like afraid of them just because of knowing all the stuff I was dealing with. And like, I went through a phase too where I would purposely like scare people off.
Really?
Yeah.
You were showing them your toxic traits more so to kind of scare them off.
So yeah, like I was like, the stuff would start to come out, like the issue stuff would start to come out, because like I had trust issues with people, where it's kind of like, oh, like, hey, you're getting into some like you're gonna be in for a rough ride with this one. I'm about to just save you the hassle, kind of thing like that, right? And then most of the time, like I mean, when you're in your 20s or whatever, like most guys are like quick hookup type of things. Most guys in that age are just like, trying to get laid and get paid, and that's pretty much it. There very few men who are like wanting long term like loving relationships at that like in those ages, that age range. You're 20 to 25.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they didn't exist, but they're few and far between. Most are just hormone driven. But I would start to kind of like scare people off, and like it just wasn't work because like again issues with myself. I think Pal was one of like the first people, like I said, Pal was one of the first people where I like openly started to admit to stuff where I'm like, I have issues.
Well, you started to change a lot after you and Pal got together.
Right.
In the best way. That's why I love that girl for you.
Right.
I love her. Like, again, I've always said this, if he ever breaks her heart, I'm going to whack this man across the head.
And it's one of those things too, where I started to realize, and this is when you like, I think you genuinely do realize like you care about someone because you take their feelings into account. Like where it's like, I've become more aware of that person's feelings that I'm with. Like I say the wrong thing and it genuinely hurts them, and then it hurts me because I hurt them.
Whereas the Eric 5 years ago, you probably wouldn't have been as...
I would have been like, get over it, You've
been like, sucks to suck, like,
like get over it. And like honestly, and full disclosure too, like I'm still working on that kind of thing. Like me and Pal had this conversation that was kind of a problem where she was stressing with the stuff that she's working through, and also I'm like kind of like, hey, welcome to the real world. This is like how it is, and like, and she's like, it bothers me when you say that, and like I'm starting to try and take that into account where it's like, okay, that bothers her. I need to not use that approach.
Because sometimes she just wants to be listened to. Like,
right. And that's the biggest thing I think I have with people and relationships and love and relationships is like people, I have trouble understanding that people just want to be heard. Because you
want to fix things and you want to be like, you want the answer at the end. Like,
right.
Something happens, you're like, okay, I'll fix this. There's a problem that occurs. All right, I'll take care of it. You don't want to sit in problem mode. That's the kind of person that you
like, let's fix it.
Look at the nature of your job too. I mean, like if someone calls and says, hey, we're having a problem, none of the computers are working, you're not going to be like, sucks,
Sucks.
You're going to be like, I'm going to fix it.
Yeah, no. And I think that, so like, I'm starting to learn how to take my partner's relationship, like my partner's feelings into consideration, like things I can say can hurt you. And I need to not do that because like, and I felt it was like, oh, I really hurt her feelings. Like, that hurt me, and like we've had instances too where we talk like, I was like, that happened, and I was like, that really, really hurt my feelings because I thought I like really hurt you, and like I had never felt anything like that before. Like I said before, I'd be like, oh, they'll get over it, but like now it's kind of like, whoa, that's not cool,
Nothing hurts more than like if you see your partner cry over something that like you said or did.
Right.
And so
it's very, like, very painful.
Dustin and I love Dustin, and like we love each other. We have a beautiful marriage. There have been times where like I'm being very sensitive. Maybe I had a bad day and I'll cry because he said something and not out of malicious intent, but like it'll be the single tear and then like he'll feel bad. Or there have been times that like I really upset him and then I have to, swallow my pride and be like, I'm sorry, I messed up big time. Like,
And it's like, I've started like the way I treat relationships now, or it's kind of like, they're not perfect, obviously. Like you are going to fight, you're going to have arguments, you're going to do this thing. But the important part is how you bounce back from them. That's what really tests like the strength of things. It's like how you bounce back from the issues you run into in your relationship, like how you bounce back from them. You stay angry and pissed off at each other for weeks on end, or do you come back the next day and be like, hey, let's talk about this more. Like, let's actually sit and talk about this now that the feelings are out of the way, and let's figure, let's really discuss it. I don't want to say feeling, the emotions. Like now that the emotions have, been shed, let's like actually talk about how we really feel about this whole thing. And that's where I'm starting to learn. So like that was the humanity thing is one of those things like I want to learn more about, like the love and relationship thing. Cause it's as crazy as it sounds, it's like, I need to learn how to love somebody. Like I need to learn how to love people,
So I was interested in that one. too. I didn't take many notes on it, but the one I always found really interesting is I was curious about money,
Yeah.
like wealth, like, and so that was the one that I kind of focused on. I wrote a lot of notes on that. Um, but I'm curious to see like what you get out of this, because what you might get out of it might be very different than what I got out of
Right.
it. Certain things like I didn't even realize like I went deep in this class. I was just writing so much.
To the savoring thing, because like I've been starting the week 2 thing. I'm in the middle of the week 2 thing. Like savoring. Yours are a little different from mine. But you did give an example of like, oh no, that was the appreciation. But like savoring. So like one thing I really, really enjoy is like when I drive home from like my mom's or I'm driving home from work or something. I enjoy that hour I have where I'm just listening to my podcast. Not mine personally, but like I'll listen to my podcast playlist and I'll start getting through the episodes. Like that's one of those things like I enjoy and I look forward to every week. Is like I go through my
That's
podcast list.
for me one of my therapeutic moments are when I drive and I'm by myself and I can just listen to like usually I'll listen to like worship music or something because that's for me. It's like and that's been a hard thing because Dustin and I share a car and you know the type of job that I work.
Right.
And for me, what was always so important is at the end of the day, like getting in my car, being away from all the noise, because it's a very noisy job. It's a lot of movement, a
Right.
lot of crazy, and having like that space in my car by myself with my music to just zen out and think and savor the day or like get away from the day. And so I don't have that right now because like we share one vehicle. So that's always been really difficult for me as of
Yeah.
late
I,
because it's
I,
like
I really do want to shout out to the people at Giant Bomb and Nextlander and the Sacred Symbols and all of that get me my podcast, like my gaming podcast throughout the week, because they do make
yeah.
my drive home bearable. My drive's not very long. It's about a half hour, but it makes it bearable sitting in LA traffic, you know?
And if you're stuck in traffic, 30 minutes will become 45 or an hour, depending. I mean, you're in LA, so
Yeah. So like I'm learning to savor those kind of like little things. Like I'm like, I really enjoy this to the point where it's like if someone calls and interrupts, I'm kind of like, "Grr," you know?
it's interesting here. Like I wrote this about savoring specifically. So, what enhances savoring? Like, what does it look like? It's talking to another person about how good I felt.
Aw.
Uh, it's I. This is the example she gives. I looked for other people to share it with. I thought about what a lucky person I am. I thought about sharing this with others. That's why you see, like, when I start talking about my faith, you've even said this too. I just like
Yeah,
come
no,
alive, and
that's your lifeblood. Like that's what your flow.
I'm just like, yeah, let me talk about it. So when I suppress it, it's not savoring. So we're falling into like, what is savoring? I showed physical expressions of energy. That's savoring. I told myself how proud of myself I was, and I thought only about the present and absorbed it. So you're not living like in the past too much, but you're living in the present. You're enjoying that moment. You're savoring where you are. Like with your podcast, you're like, I'm in the car by myself, enjoying the ride home.
Another
Just
one. Another one I really enjoy is me and Pal go to the comic book swap meet. And it's one of those
listening.
dates that we do just regularly, almost to the point where you would get sick of like a normal couple would get sick of it kind of
Yeah,
thing. But it's one of those things where it's like I savor it because that's like we enjoy the same stuff. And Pal does too. Like Pal's like the only reason sometimes Pal would not want to go is because we just don't want to sit in the traffic to get there.
right.
But when we are there, it's like it's very like relaxed, and Pal goes up and down all the different booths, and she gets her comic books for the weeks that she enjoys, and like she gets excited when she finds one she likes, and so like and
Mhm.
like I start like I'm learning to savor those little like type of moments things, because for
Mhm.
relationships for me those have always been like the things that like I appreciate most about relationships. And I told
Mhm.
this when I first started dating Pal, I'm like, I'm gonna be honest with you. There's gonna be days or years or whatever where I'm gonna forget what the hell our anniversary is. Like I will forget, right?
Yeah.
But I will know what your favorite donut is and you'll have it on the table randomly in the morning sometimes.
Mhm.
Like those kind of things. Like it's weird. I don't remember big things, but I remember details.
Mhm.
You
You
know.
remember like and in so many ways that's almost I would say better because those are daily simple reminders.
Right.
As, anniversaries, yeah, they're big, they're important. Like I'd be upset if Dustin forgot our anniversary. Like anyone would be, right?
Yeah.
But I would prefer that he would know the more
Yeah, like the
details.
nuanced details of things like that make you as a person tick. Like
Right.
and function. Like Pal's favorite color is purple. It's not any purple. It's not that Twitch purple that's like sitting behind you, right? It's
It's
it's like that lavender, like it's a
like
lavendery purple.
lavendery purple.
Do I have one? I don't have it here, but it's like a lavendery, like almost on the borderline of where it's like a light blue.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a
Dustin,
lav.
what's my favorite color?
Give us the
Let me
hex,
see.
Dustin. Give us the hex code.
Hex code of my favorite color.
Yeah,
Oh, here he goes.
I
I'm gonna go
have
search for it.
I actually have the hex code of your color. Like,
Dude,
I saved it in our resources folder. So when I make logos or whatever, or artwork,
okay.
you know,
Oh, well, he gave an emote with like the color
yeah.
on there.
See, but I
Yeah.
have like the actual picture of the hex code with the shade and everything in the resources folder, just in case I make artwork for us. I know what your hex code is.
Was it me that gave you that hex code?
I think I asked you to get it from Dustin or something, and you gave me the hex code.
I have it like based off my Canva. I think
Hmm.
that's what it was.
But like that's the
Um,
thing. Like Pau has this shade of lavender that she likes. Like it's a lavendery purple. And if it's
sure.
something that looks like a Twitch purple, like I'll be like, she's not gonna like it.
Yeah.
But if I find that lavendery thing, like pandas, every time I see a panda now, I think of my girlfriend because she loves
Oh.
pandas. You know, and it's like little detail oriented things that
Mm-hmm.
like you truly do savor about your partner. You know, it's one of the things like things that make Pal laugh. Like I know what makes my girlfriend laugh, and things
That's
like
cute.
that. It's like it's little things like that. But again, that goes back. I sound like I'm rambling, but it actually goes back to like learning to love somebody and learning to love another person and their feelings and their emotions and the stuff that makes them who they are.
I'm curious to what your thoughts are going to be with that section on love and
That'll be
relationship.
interesting because that was like my biggest thing. And like, again, I'm starting to try and learn how to love people and
Mm-hmm.
appreciate people. And it's not just my girl, but like my friends, my family, and even those individuals that look up to me for something. Like I'm trying to learn how to interact with them better because, like I said, I had a hard time loving people.
Mm-hmm.
And I said a lot of things that hurt a lot of people, not intentionally, but
Right.
just
You
knowing
were
how
just,
my attitude was and my outlook on life was. Like I'm trying really, really, really hard to fix it. There's a lot of like relationships I would like to try and go back and fix. We just talked about that where I made that phone call,
mm-hmm.
and I have a couple more to make that I'm trying to, fix
And
and
you will,
yeah. But like
because
that was the biggest thing.
you're aware now, and
I'm
that's the
aware
good
now.
things.
Mental health is wild, dude.
One of the most powerful things in psychology is self-awareness, because I think a
Hmm.
lot of us code.
I think it's all built on self-awareness.
Oh yeah, because it's easy for us to validate and justify whatever it is that we're doing. Like, oh,
Right.
I'm acting this way because of this, this, this. Okay, but there are tools,
Right.
there are resources available.
Right.
Or like, I know when, like for example, I know that when I go through periods of change, I have severe anxiety, like severe anxiety. Now that I'm hyper aware to it, I'm aware when those things happen, instead of being like, all right, I'm going to bolt and leave now, I'm going to say, this is, I go through this every time. I just got to
That was one
get
of those
through it.
things. I learned that
Yeah.
too. Like I learned to remove myself from situations that don't benefit me in terms of mental health. Like I can't be here right now. I can't not deal with this right now.
Right. And
And,
sometimes you just push through it
you know,
because it's not, you know. So that was self awareness. I always say, like, that's
it's
one of the
it's
best things.
interesting cuz like I see a lot of people's tweets and stuff like that and they always use that term like I don't have the spoons for this right now. But they keep kind of like trying to reach for the spoons that aren't there. You know what I mean?
Mm.
The,
You know what's interesting though? Did you get to the part in the class where she talks about social media? I
Not
don't
yet.
think it's a.
I haven't
Oh,
gotten there yet. It's probably in a week or two. I'm getting there.
want me, or do you want me to not say
No,
anything?
don't say anything because I want this all to be completely raw when we come back in a month or two or whatever and finish the second half of this. But like
Okay.
people, I feel like people go out there and they're reaching for spoons, and when they say they don't have spoons, like I don't
Mhm.
have the spoons for this right now. Okay, why are you here? You know,
Right.
are you trying to have us give you spoons or something? Like again, I go back to this. Like I feel like a lot of people just post stuff to find enablers. That'll be
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, you're great. You're gonna be okay. Like, whereas like someone like rather than take the actual criticism of like, hey, maybe you should try this or that.
Right. They just want to kind of like. They don't want. They just want to justify it. They want to justify it.
Right.
it's comfortable to stay the same.
Yeah. And that's
Even
the
if you're
thing
miserable.
too. Like how many people actually really want to go and fix the situation they're in? You know.
I think a lot of people want to, but there's also a lot of people that are just like, I was someone that used to be comfortable in my misery because I always knew what my misery looked like. Because the idea of change, or the idea of my thought process was, what if I walk away from this, or what if I do something different and it's even worse than what it is now?
Yeah, and I think the other thing I think that kind of like bothers me too a lot nowadays is like people are like, I have these issues, I'm this way, you just need to accept it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
where I think a lot of it has to be is like they need to accept themselves that they're that way and need to come to the realization that they're that way. It's almost
Mm-hmm.
like people are trying to be accepted by others before they've even accepted themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I get it. I understand. Like I said, mental health's a wild thing that doesn't have all these clear cut answers. Sometimes it takes years to find it. Sometimes you never find it and you're constantly just trying to maintain it,
Mm-hmm.
you know? But like, genuine happiness. And it's interesting is like things will bring you happiness, but it won't sustain your happiness.
Right.
Happiness is not something that can be sustained with things like, with like
Did
acknowledgments and appreciations and stuff. Like that stuff's not sustainable to happiness. You have to really find the things that keep your happiness sustainable.
Well, there's this, I know you don't want me to mention too much about the class, but like they do briefly talk about it, and it's called like hedonic adaptation. I remember writing it down. It's like our brains become accustomed to positive or negative stimuluses, like emotional effects over time. So your
Yeah.
brain is going to become accustomed to whatever happiness that you go through.
Right.
It's like the happiness of a new job. Like, this is great. I love this. Okay, what happens in 2 years?
Right.
I'm sick of this job. I don't like this job. I'm tired of working here. Like, your brain has adapted to this situation. It's used to it now. So like
Mm-hmm.
happiness it's a feeling, but it only comes in seasons, like certain times, it's not always going to be there.
Right.
I think we live so much in a culture that it's like a chase for happiness, when our lives are going to be this kind of woven, tapestry of happiness and joy and sorrow and fear. And I think to completely 100% search for happiness, you're missing out completely on the entirety of life.
Right. Yeah,
So,
that's the thing. Yeah, like life is just it's never constant. Like it's just never consistent. It's always going to be like these ups and these downs and these lefts and these rights, and you're going to have money and then you're not going to have money. You're going to have
mhm,
health and then you're not going to have health. Like that's just how life. Like that's real. It's as weird as cruel as it sounds. It's like that's how life is. It's how we adapt as people, and look for the things that do help us sustain that happiness.
mhm.
And I'm glad you brought this course thing up, because I feel like especially out in the social media world, there's a lot of unhappy people that are looking for people, like their posts and everything, to just have others engage with their unhappiness. you know
And I also think too that there are a lot of people out there that talk like they're experts, but they're not. You know,
oh, for sure.
and I think when we get a warped perception of what happiness is, of what mental health is, of what we should be doing. Like, listen, I did like my. This is gonna sound crazy, and a lot of people are probably they might be upset with me for saying this, but I regret the stuff I did to do the highly sensitive stuff. I wish I never did it.
Does it feel like because you were trying to find like a justification for like?
I feel like I think it helped people in the sense of like learning about themselves and like maybe taking that information to like a therapist or something.
Yeah,
I often wonder how many people didn't, and how many have I given information when maybe I wasn't fully
like certified to do.
critical. And it wasn't that I don't know. I regret that time, even though a lot of people still come to me. They're like, we're so thankful for it. And there's that almost like this guilt about it where I'm like, I don't know. Because now I can look back. I this is gonna sound crazy. This really isn't it.
I'm all for
I don't
crazy today.
I look at myself now, I'm like, I'm not a highly sensitive person. Not that I was, not that I'm not, but like I don't tie that identity to myself anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm just Hannah. And there are moments where like, yeah, I have moments where I get highly sensitive. I don't like certain loud noises. Like I get very sensitive and like, yes, those things ring true, but I don't want to sit in this place of like making it validating like behaviors that are unhealthy to myself. Do you
Right.
know? Um 'Cause sometimes life calls me to step out of my comfort zone. Sometimes life will call me to, deal with situations when I have intense anxiety. Sometimes life is gonna, make me be in loud crowds when I'm with people. Am I supposed to just, like let's say for example, and I've done this to Dustin, I feel horrible, but we'll go to events and I'll be like, okay, I need to get out because, I'm too overwhelmed.
Right.
Right. And sometimes you have to make a judgment call on it, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
okay. But there are gonna be times where it's like, it's not gonna be fair to him.
Right. And that's
If
where you have to learn. Oh, sorry, bumped it. That's where,
that's where I have to figure it out.
like, you have to learn yourself. You'd be like, okay, I can go step out to the outside and get fresh air, or I can go to a more quiet area of the building or whatever. Like, you learn to be like, I can't, do this thing, right
Yeah,
now.
I don't.
And you're learning to, that's the thing too. Again, this comes to like, the appreciation of your significant other and their feelings and what they want to do and all that kind of stuff. You don't want to drag him out of there because you don't feel,
Right. It's not about me. It
right.
was never about me. It's not like it's a very like narcissistic view of myself to be like I'm going to make sure that like it's my feelings, my comfort, my this. Like yes, feelings are valid. Yes, like how you feel, like you're allowed to feel how you feel, but it's not about me and my feelings all the time,
Right. Yeah,
you
that's
know.
a good way to put it, which is weird because we're living in a society right now where everything is me, 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 my feelings, my emotions, my this, that, this, and this, and this. And it's like there's millions of other people in the world, billions of other people, like millions of other people in the world.
Mhm.
And everyone has to be taken into like this consideration. Do I feel like everyone's being taken into consideration? No, not necessarily. We have a lot of issues in terms of inclusion and stuff like that. And I totally hear those. And I hear those sentiments, right? But
And we're not, yeah, we're talking about something different as far as
right,
like
you know,
behaviors, you know what I mean? Like, and like I don't expect the world to cater to me. Like I don't expect Dustin to cater to me. Like, and when I'm uncomfortable in situations, like we help each other out, you know?
right. And that it's interesting is like, cause the big thing too, we didn't talk about this, but it was like Elon buying Twitter, right? And the whole
Right.
idea is brings free speech back to the Twitter platform and yada, 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 yada. Where it comes like, well, now this place is going to become a cesspool of, negative comments and yada, yada, yada. And so it's like, look,
It's already been.
but there's a difference. There's a difference between misinformation and a difference of opinion. There's a distinct difference there,
Hmm.
you know?
I think we're in this place we're having a hard time distinguishing between the two, based off like our personal feelings on situations, right?
Right.
Like
Well, our
if
feelings
you
are getting involved in what we feel is correct or inaccurate information.
like for example, you could tweet to me and say like I think you're absolutely ridiculous and living in a fantasy world for being a Christian. And
Right.
I could write on Twitter like, well, I think that you're just being wacky for not believing in anything as an
Right.
atheist, right? Those are opinions, right? And like even though if you were to say that, would it hurt my feelings? I'd probably be like, oh, that stings a little bit, but you can have your opinion about it at the end of the
Right.
day. I'm still a Christian regardless of what you say or not. So I'm just gonna be like, all right, goodbye, you know. So
I
that's
don't
an
know.
opinion versus like
People have forgotten. I think people have forgotten to just like be like, I don't need to engage with this. Like, I don't need to respond to this person I don't agree with.
Mhm.
Like I don't need to. If you don't like, if they upset you so much and irritate you so much, why would you engage with it to gain more like negative energy? You know what I mean? Like I just get up and I walk away.
I know. Or just delete socials.
Yeah, like, which is fine. If that's what you needed to do, that's what you need to do. It's so funny how I see this kind of stuff and they're like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't need to see this. Like, I'll just leave or
Mhm.
scroll, keep scrolling, like, But again, it's engagement, it's numbers, and it's yada, yada, yada. We're getting off track here.
Thing about leaving social media for me, it's realizing that, like, since being off of it, I'm realizing the outside world, I'm talking about like off of social, like the outside world, the majority of people are not as intense as the internet leads us to believe.
Right, because you're not
And so,
hiding behind a screen.
right. And so, like, I'm running into people having very productive conversation about different opinions. I'm hearing people talk about, their feelings on certain topics that are totally polar opposite, but they're just having conversation. And here I am waiting. Okay, when is someone gonna
When's
get
someone gonna snap and fight?
Yeah, like, and so it's sad that that's kind of where it's led, that, where I'm kind of like cautious about it, but social media makes, I think, a big world seem so much smaller than it actually, or it
Yeah,
makes, yeah.
it's a world full of like loud minority, which is I know you're wondering like, how do I keep doing it? It's like I said, I just walk away and I just keep scrolling and I come back to it later. Like I just
Because you're
walk.
able to do that.
Yeah.
I just had to, yeah.
Yeah, like, and I get it. I understand. I've had instances where I'm seeing so much of the same thing where I'm kind of like I'm getting bothered by it, where I'm like, wow, this is really starting to affect me. So I just stopped reading it for a little bit, and then I kind of just moved on with like what I was doing. But we're gonna explore this in another month or two when I finish the course, and then we'll see how my stuff changes. I'm gonna take the test again like you did after. And I want to see how things, outlooks change. I'm still working on it. And like myself, I'm working on a lot of stuff with myself. Like I'm still not perfect. I'm not, I don't even feel like I'm fixed or whatever. And I probably will never be fixed,
Never be.
Probably never be fixed. Like this is lifelong stuff that I'll constantly battle with and, figure out and disorder. But I think in the end, where it's like my accomplishment is like, I took it upon myself to try and fix it. Like I didn't want people to wallow with me. Like I need to fix this. And I get a lot of that from my dad when I was being raised. Like my dad's like, you figure it out. Like you work through it and you figure it out and you fix it. Cause that's what strong people do, know? And granted, like not everyone is like, I think everyone has the ability to be strong. It's just a matter of when they get there. You know what I mean? Like, I think everyone has the ability to do it. Like, I think everyone has the strength to go and fix, or work on the issues that they have and fix the issues that they have and get a, life in order and stuff. Everyone has the capability of doing that. It's just a matter of when they do it, And not everyone is the same in when they do it. Not everyone figures out life at the same exact time,
Mm-hmm.
I'll end up here because like one of my biggest things too when I look at it, and this goes back to the what was the term in the chart here? It was meaning. My meaning score was a 5.3, right? And a lot of that has to do with like, am I figuring out what I need to be doing? I'm doing the right stuff at the age I'm in, etc. And I feel like I'm in the middle. Before that would have been way lower because I didn't feel like I had a meaning and know what to do and all that stuff. And then I found out Anthony Bourdain, who I miss greatly, that famous like chef that did all those traveling shows, fantastic individual, really, and really enlightening individual. He had, he talked about how he didn't find his success until his like mid 40s.
You hear a lot. You hear about like actors. I think like what Morgan Freeman was like in his 40s or 30s, and he,
it's like
talked enough about, and so I think it's just the common perception that it's like, oh, you figure out what you want to do in your 20s, and now that I'll be 30 and a little over, I'm like, I probably figured out the direction I wanted to head in my late 20s, but I never figured out exactly what I wanted to do.
I always said too, you were a late bloomer, so I think
I feel like
you're
exactly when I needed to bloom.
Yeah. It's your time came,
Yeah.
And whether or not my time is here or it's come or it's gonna come, like it gets here when it gets here, and I'll know in my head when I do get there.
Exactly.
So thanks for the course. Very enlightening stuff.
Of course. And I highly recommend if anyone's listening, it's on Coursera. It's called The Science of Wellbeing.
I will put a link in here. I will put a link to the course right here. And then this will also be up in the episode description, etc., etc. So if you guys want to check that out, or you're interested in getting some enlightening Why did it say network occurred? I hope that's...
Oh, your first again.
Let's see. Oh, the page loads. I don't know. Twitch is being finicky. Twitch is in some weird stuff right now. I have a feeling this site ain't going to be here in a month.
Oh, boy. Can I, like, eBay this? Oh, are you doing St. Jude? Because I got the box, and I was like, I got to do it. Like, I just feel bad because they sent me the stuff, and I'm like...
I feel bad because I think my box got sent to my old apartment.
Oh, yeah, it would have. Because you never updated it, did you?
They never sent me the email.
I never got an email. I just got a package.
Yeah, so like, I mean, you would think that's one of those things they check up every year, kind of like, hey, is this stuff accurate and up to date? But then again, well, I don't know if they come UPS or postal service.
I don't know, but it got sent to my parents' house, so I picked it up. Like,
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to talk to my old roommate, and I don't know.
Well, you could probably reach out to St. Jude and just say, hey, I never got it. Like,
because I think I should have got it.
Year, so like you definitely... I got like an envelope mailer, so I didn't get like the big box that was getting sent out, but now I'm kind of like, maybe I should fundraise, but I'll
it's one of those things where it's like, do I have the energy to do it this year? And by me saying like, do I have it's not me saying like I don't care about the cause or like that's not true, but it's like, do I have the energy to go and do all the streams and stuff like that? Am I mentally in a place to be like streaming and all this stuff for the charity and all that kind of thing? Because I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of happy just doing things the way we're doing them right now.
Yeah. Well, I might do it, but I don't think I'll do incentive.
Yeah.
Because that's what I don't have the time and energy to like be able to create incentive graphics.
I don't want to eat beans anymore.
I know, they sent me some beans and I was like,
oh no, I don't know if I want to do this. But you know what? I care about the cause. I appreciate the cause. Maybe I'll just donate this year, or I might just do the thing where I talk to my coworkers at work and be like, hey, anyone interested in contributing, et cetera, like I might do that, so we'll see what happens. We'll talk about that stuff. So I had a bunch of plans to have all this stuff migrated to the new Twitch channel, and we were going to have the TikTok up and running. And, I was going to totally sound professional and have everything up and running. I'm still working on it.
It's okay.
We're going to have it up soon. I was supposed to have clips to upload to the TikTok, and I don't know what happened.
It's okay. We'll get there when we get there.
We get there when we get there. That was a hint. That was supposed to be our social media manager. That was supposed to scrub for clips. And
listen, we got for today, like me trying to get this iPad case going.
Oh, that's going up. I'm going to put that in the thing. I'm going to TikTok format that thing. And I'm going to put that, what is it? The TV show thing. Oh, that song. Oh, Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's gonna be the Curb Your Enthusiasm thing. Yep.
Well, we end in here.
Yeah, we're gonna call it here. That was a long episode.
But we
talked about Amber Heard pooping on the bed.
I know, that took up a good chunk of time.
Maybe we'll do an episode on that whole thing when it's all said and done.
I think it's like a full 6 weeks. So I think they're on like week.
They're on trial for 6 weeks?
6 weeks.
What the hell?
Hold on.
That is wild.
Maybe it's not. Wait. No, hold on.
That's insane. Dude, if I was a juror on that thing and they're like 6 weeks, I'd be like, hell nah, girl, you need to figure this out now.
Oh, the trial's going to last for 5 weeks in total.
5 weeks still?
Yep.
Like I said, if I was a juror, I'd be like, hell nah, girl, you need to figure this stuff out now. Like, no, sir.
We will let you guys go. Thank you so much for listening.
That's Hannah saying, I want to leave. My hubby's home. My hubby's home.
I'm keeping in mind your editing because I'm like, this thing is going to be what?
It'll be okay. It'll get done. I'm disappointed on the last note here. I'm disappointed you did not go to Record Store Day and get the Taylor 7-inch.
Just money so hard right now. If anyone just wants to Venmo me. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I'm going to do, before we leave, I'm going to do a little search here. I'm just curious because this was one of the most desired things for Record Store Day.
Oh, was it?
Uh-huh.
My sister went. She didn't see it.
Your store only got like 10 copies or something like that. Like it was I don't know what happened. Let's see. Oh my God.
What?
Let's see. What is it called? Oh, it's called The Lakes. I guess it's some unreleased song or something that she pressed on vinyl for Record Store Day. And yeah, the only way to get it was at Record Store Day, meaning you had to go to your local record store that got it and pick it up. Oh, girl, you're going to be hurting. You want to take a wild guess how much the 7-inch costs? Record store, I'm going to guess this was a $20 7-inch, right?
Yeah, how much?
It's selling now $141, $132, $122.
Dang.
You're looking. Oh, this one went for $167.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't because we're not using our credit card.
No. Well, no. I was thinking you were gonna, because I was like, oh, it's probably like $20. She'll indulge, and it'll be a fun little trip for her. But
no, like the night before, there was a line. There were people camping out already.
Maybe
I was like, what's
maybe in external content, I'll share some of the Record Store Day stuff I've scored over the years, because some of it's pretty cool. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead. Oh, see, I switched windows and it locked me up again. That's so weird. OBS, please. I think it just doesn't like me today. Okay, we're going to go ahead and while Hannah does her dance, we're going to go ahead and we're going to sway out of here. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. This has been The Good People with Erik and Hannah. I'm Erik.
I'm Hannah.
There you go. You did it while you were dancing. You were good. You're good.
I'm Hannah.
Guys, we'll see you very, very, very soon. We're going to go ahead and sign out. You guys have a great day and a great Saturday. I got to go birthday shopping.
Hey.
Yay, it's my brother's birthday Monday, so happy birthday.
Hey, Erik, brother Erik. There we go.
All right, we're going to go ahead and sign out. We'll see you guys very, very soon. Thanks again.
Bye.